mandates coming from the federal government. It was announced, I think, in September, but the news had come out that, they actually haven't put this into effect yet. They're just talking about doing that. Well, now they're saying they're going to be putting it into effect via the OSHA organization, the criminal enterprise that forces its way on all businesses.
Occupational Safety Health Administration.
In the name of so-called safety, they shove a ton of regulations and rules down people's throats that, of course, the Congress never actually passed. OSHA just writes this crap. And so we can talk about that because they are now saying, I believe, the very beginning of January is the deadline for all corporations with more than 100 employees that they have to mandate either vaccination for their workers or they all have to test every single week.
I can't believe that we're sitting here talking about this and that this is happening. This is real life right now. 2.5 or so years ago when I came out to New Hampshire, things were bad. And I feel like I just... You
mean federally?
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like I got here in the nick of time still. Yeah. 2.5 years later because, holy crap. I mean, if you'd have told me all the crap that was going to happen in the next 2.5 years after I got here, I'd have been like, whatever. But no, here we are. A dystopian society, I can only describe it as.
It's really crazy. Medical authoritarian police state. It is not getting better. It's definitely getting worse. And the good news is there is a positive side to this. More people are going into homeschooling than ever before.
That's true.
More people are moving to New Hampshire who love liberty. Libertarians, voluntarists, liberty-loving anarchists are finally saying, you know what, this is getting bad. And maybe I should be in the place with the most people who are like me. You've got a story about that. We'll get to it maybe later on in the show tonight, Captain.
A lot of people also moving to Florida and Texas, which, I mean, if you're in California, it's definitely an improvement. But
almost anything's an improvement from California, with the exception of New York. That's, I think,
I didn't bring it for show prep, but that little town in California that has been bucking the rest of California, it declared itself an independent republic.
Huh. Interesting.
Nice. Yeah, it's the same town where it's a small town in the outskirts, the rural area of California. So, it doesn't feel like it should be treated the same as, the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area, for example.
I definitely think that the areas of very high concentrated population sort of need to be treated differently than those of low concentrated population. I mean, especially California and New York, or back in Washington.
Yes.
I've definitely heard many stories about how Western Washington is a completely different place than Eastern Washington.
I used to joke about it when I lived in the Seattle area because people would say, well, on the other side of the mountains, referring to Western Washington Eastern Washington, sorry. I would call it the Midwest, because it's on the other side of the mountains and It was flat and it had 4 seasons, whereas anything on the other side of the west side of the mountains was, sort of that the Seattle rain, the left coast, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. And so, there's been talk in the Washington State area about splitting into 2 states. So, you could have, the left coast of, we'll call it the I-5 corridor going north and south to, all the way to Canada down to Oregon. And then that would be, one state, we'll call it Western Washington, and then the other would be Eastern Washington. They have completely different politics for certain. You'll find far more righties, on the right side, and far more lefties on the left side, ironically enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would be in favor of making the entire Boss Wash corridor one state. I mean, they essentially operate that way anyway.
Yes, and the more we talk about this kind of stuff, I just feel behooved to say that, yes, we're going in the right direction talking about this. We do need to, group together with more like-minded people, particularly here in New Hampshire, or, wherever it is you feel like you need to go to be with people that are, aligned with, the way you want to live your life. But as we reduce into smaller and smaller groups, let's just, continue that line of thought down to the individual.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's where it's all going to lead anyway. So, we're taking baby steps here and there and all that kind of thing. But, even the 3 of us here, we probably agree on political stuff. But we're still going to need different levels of services and goods and products and that type of thing from each other, even that, our needs are different from each other,
mm-hmm.
and thus, an individualized lifestyle is really what it's going to come down to.
Well, and I think there's two major factors at play here. One is just the strict numerical, like, I am currently forced to be in a group with 330 million people.
Right.
If I could be forced to be in a group with 1 million people, that would be a significant improvement. I do think there's also a matter of culture, though.
Yes.
Like the people in New York, like in upstate New York, are forced to be in the same group as people in New York City, when very frequently they are just completely
Very
diametrically opposed and just have very, very different culture.
Well, and this is why I am so glad that I had the opportunity to, and I haven't really traveled outside of the U.S., but I've traveled extensively within the U.S., and there are many cultures within the U.S.
Sure.
And I have, I'm of an age where I did a lot of traveling when I was young, and I had the freedom to do so and experience different cultures. Without the freedom to go and experience all the different cultures, though, if I ended up like most folks, where like you grow up in a town and you stay in that town for most of your life and you never leave, I wouldn't have the opinions and ideas that I have today. So
that's true.
It's an interesting phenomena. Folks need to have the freedom to travel and experience other cultures in order to evaluate what culture is going to be correct for them, or take bits and pieces from all these cultures and make your own culture, if you will.
Yeah, it's sad when so few people are willing to actually make those changes. I saw that, I think it was a statistic, it was either 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 5 Americans have never left their state.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and Bruce Lee, the founder of Jeet Kune Do, it's called the art without an art, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically, I'll call it a decentralized martial art, because that's the closest description I have to it, especially amongst libertarian circles. But what he did is he studied all the martial arts. He wasn't like, I'm going to study this one, and this is the right martial art for me.
Take a little from this, take a little from that.
Yeah, he would take the best parts, in his opinion, from this one and that one and the other one. And like if he came upon knowledge that something was a better way of, delivering a punch or a kick or, meditation or whatever parts of the martial art, if he found a better way amongst some, he would incorporate that into his art. And
that's what I did with religion.
And exactly. Yeah. And so that's what individuals need to be able to do themselves.
Well,
they need to be able to experience life and incorporate the best ideas that they bump into and come up with. And, whether they're taught to them by their families and the culture they grew up in, or whether, they go out and travel and, find other ideas, they need the freedom to be able to do this. And it doesn't seem to be really readily available to most people.
Well, and a lot of martial arts formed that way in an attempt to sort of syncretize different traditions. But I mean, our ability to experience different traditions and different cultures today, but with both the internet and the relative technological ease of travel, is just unprecedented. And I really do think that we need to start getting into that. But at the same time, you also have to incorporate that into a sort of root set of values. Like for us, the root value is the non-aggression principle and personal property rights. So a lot of different traditions and ideas can be brought together into that, while holding on to a principled core.
And what I love most about that principled core is that it allows all of the other philosophies to exist within it. In my opinion, I
would say most,
and I haven't found one that's strictly nope, it's out, unless it's completely evil.
Right.
Coming up, we've got some of the details on what's happening with this mandate. It's supposed to be going into effect as of January 4th, but apparently a court is now putting a stay of some sort on this. And Peakless Mountaineer, you've got that story. We'll get to that. Your calls and thoughts are welcome as well here on Free Talk Live.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20. Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. It's bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Phone records, financial and location data, Prism, Tempora, X-Keyscore, Boundless Informant. Hey y'all, Scott Horton here for offnow.org. Now here's the deal. Due to the Snowden revelations, we have a great opportunity for a short period of time to get some real rollback of the national surveillance state. Now they're already trying to tire us by introducing fake reforms in the Congress. And the courts, they betrayed their sworn oaths to the Constitution and Bill of Rights again and again, and can in no way be trusted to stop the abuses for us. We've got to do it ourselves. How? We nullify it at the state level. It's still not easy, but the Off Now project of the 10th Amendment Center has gotten off to a great start. I mean it. There's real reason to be optimistic here. They've gotten their model legislation introduced all over the place, in state after state. I've lost count, more than a dozen. You're always wondering, yeah, but what can we do? Here's something important, something that can work if we do the work. Get started cutting off the NSA support in your state. Go to offnow.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. Live Saturday show, open phones as always, 603-283-6160 is the number. That's 603-283-6160. By the way, the infrastructure bill passed. I don't know if you heard that as well. More bad news. Over $1 trillion more they're going to be spending on all kinds of politically connected stuff.
Good time to have precious metals and cryptocurrency.
Well, not if you're an obedient serf, because they're going to start regulating crypto transactions even heavier than before. So you might want to look into Monero as far as cryptocurrency, or Pirate Chain, or some of the other privacy coins, because now they're talking about taxing any crypto or reporting or something. I haven't read the bill, obviously. But
what was it? Unrealized capital gains?
No, not that one. That hasn't happened yet. But this is a proposal,
a ridiculous term,
of $10,000. So anybody moving more than $10,000 in cryptocurrency. Now, I don't know if that's cumulative over a whole year or if it's just in one go. I don't have those details, but that's now going to be some sort of a regulated affair. So things are getting much worse in the world of the regulated cryptosphere, and that's not good news. We can talk about all these things and more, but the big news, of course, is that some court, an appeals court apparently, has put a stay on the Biden mandate.
What does that mean? Put a stay for our...
So it means your concerns appear to be valid. We're going to investigate this, but you can't do this until we've investigated.
Who initiates the stay? The court?
The court.
Okay.
So somebody goes to court and says, hey, this is illegal. We need an emergency injunction against this thing. And then the hearing happens. So the judge issues the injunction, says, okay, this can't move forward.
Oh, so somebody else has to come in and like sort of object to the thing.
Yeah, the court doesn't act on its own.
I guess you'll tell us.
Right.
Okay.
But real quick, before we get into what happened, just a quick rundown of what this is supposed to do. According to NPR, the deadline is January 4th, where OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, tells companies with 100 or more employees that they must ensure that workers are either fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Now, whether that means 2 shots or 3 shots or 4 shots at this point, I don't know. Or the workers have to test negative for the coronavirus at least once per week. So their deadline is January 4th to do one or the other, to implement those. Workers must get paid time off in order to get vaccinated. Employers are not obligated to pay for testing. So if an employee says, I'm not going to get vaccinated, the employer then says, well, you have to get tested. It is on the employee to pay every single week whatever the hell that costs.
Wait, I thought you said is the testing every week?
Every single week. You have to test negative for coronavirus every week, which, of course, if you've been paying attention to even the mainstream news on coronavirus, you know that vaccinated people are just as likely to spread coronavirus as unvaccinated people.
Yep.
So this just means that it's going to be the vaccinated people spreading coronavirus because they're not actually getting tested for it. It's the unvaccinated people who are actually going to get tested for it and stay home from work if they have it.
Yeah, which is the ridiculousness of the whole thing illustrated in, I don't know, say a rock concert, for example, where they say that you have to either be vaccinated or produce a negative test. And it's like, well, if this were all about safety, then everybody would have to produce a negative test instead of either be vaccinated, because we know it can be spread. We've seen it. We saw it early on, man, with the most extreme lockdown.
Well, if you're vaccinated, then we believe that you just have to have faith.
That's what this is all about.
If you're
it's a religion.
vaccinated and have faith, then you clearly don't have the coronavirus. It's just science.
It's the woke religion is what it is. And also, here's more. Unvaccinated people at these jobs must wear masks. Now, of course, we know that a lot of places are still mandating masks, period, because the CDC is still recommending it even for vaccinated people, but all unvaccinated workers at these companies will have to wear masks. That requirement goes into effect on December 5th. Then finally, healthcare workers don't have the testing option under a different rule. So if you're in the healthcare field and you accept, I think the rule is if you accept Medicare and Medicaid services as a healthcare provider, which is probably a huge chunk of them, then you have to follow these rules, which is to say that all of your workers must be vaccinated. There is no testing option, again, starting on January 4th in that case. So,
yeah, I do wonder if the injunction ends up lifted on this thing, if this time next year the wearing of a mask will be the indication that you are refusing to get the jabtism.
Well, and nice word, jabtism.
I thought so.
Nice.
To be jabtized into the Church of Woke.
Well, that would only be at work, where you're too afraid to actually, lose your job.
I mean, I believe that's what it's turning into with all of the different, mandates and recommendations and things sort of coming to a head. It's going to turn into where people who are not vaccinated must be masked, is my prediction. We were already seeing it, as you just outlined. I think it's just going to turn into more of that. And then eventually, I don't know, are they going to start using force on people?
Well, maybe they'll just start wearing the little gold chain that says vaccinated, like the mayor of New York.
The governor.
Governor of New York State.
I mean, it's nobody's business whether or not you're vaccinated for anything at all. Period.
That's what you would think.
I deserve to know all of your medical history.
That's the way it used to be.
Because you're near me.
Yeah, it used to be that way prior to 2020, and all that has changed. So that's the story. Of course, now how many companies are actually going to stand up? How many of these companies?
0.
Oh, I don't know if it's going to be 0.
I wouldn't go with 0. Definitely not.
Somebody out there is going to make a stand, I would hope. I mean, certainly.
We watched some companies stand up when they're like, you have to shut down, and they're like, no, we're not going to. So, I mean, if they're going to stand up then when it's very, very obvious that they are standing up against this, the fact that we now have something where it can be very subtle that you're just failing to enforce this. And I mean, goodness knows that OSHA has nowhere near the resources to actually enforce this themselves.
If you're running a company, if you're an executive in a company that's over 100 employees and you're going to stand up and say no, give us a call, 603-283-6160.
Well, there's a quick, headline here from Reuters. Worker rebellion swells over vaccine mandates from Boeing to Mercedes. So if enough of the workers say, you know what, we're not going to do any of this stuff. I'm not going to a testing facility every single week. I'm not going to go and get this experimental medication shoved into my arm. I'm not going to do any of those things. And I'm a good worker. I've had a long history at this company. I'm pretty important to making sure things work correctly. I've got a lot of institutional knowledge or whatever, and so do my buddies here. And we're just all going to not come to work if you're not going to.
I would love to see that. There was word about some sort of a national walkout was supposed to happen on, the 3rd or something?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I heard nothing else about it.
It's because the media is not going to report on it.
Doesn't
right?
appear that anybody nationally walked out, so... that kind of a thing absolutely needs to happen. It needs to happen immediately, if not sooner.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a test of the decentralized defense mechanism. So, what will you do if you don't have an army? One of the answers is, we will do lots of things. Some people will oppose the invading force directly. Some people will just be very slow to follow their orders. And you have the opportunity for doing that here, where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that again. Oh, I'm sorry, I just haven't gotten around to it. Oh, did I lose that paperwork? Oh, clumsy me. So you do have the opportunity for people to very subtly resist these in any level of resistance they want to. In
Boeing Corporation, more than 7,000 workers have applied for religious exemptions, and another 1,000 are seeking medical exemptions, and that is about 6% of their roughly 125,000 U.S. employees. Now, is that enough to make a difference? We'll see. The number here is 603-283-6160. The more people that do stand up, the more freedom we'll retain. This is Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with a hard-fought win for the White House, the passage of President Biden's infrastructure proposals after a day of more infighting among Democrats. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, says the president's Build Back Better public spending plan may not secure congressional support until late November. The Democrats paid the price this week for their internal warfare, losing the race for the governor of Virginia. A Republican, Glenn Youngkin, won a shock come-from-behind victory.
We are going to start that transformation on day one.
His win in Virginia and a stronger-than-expected Republican performance in New Jersey terrified Democrats. They fear the Republicans will now recapture both houses of Congress in midterm elections next year. The election results came hours after President Biden returned to the US from COP26 in Glasgow. At the Climate Change Summit, he insisted America was reclaiming a position of world leadership, and he chided the leaders of China and Russia for staying away.
The fact that China trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up, come on.
Environmental activists say they've been disappointed by COP26 so far. Greta Thunberg telling supporters that it's a business-as-usual talking shop, despite agreements to reduce deforestation and global dependence on coal. Britain was rocked by a political scandal. A member of the governing Conservative Party resigned from Parliament after Prime Minister Boris Johnson tried to defend him against corruption allegations, but then, amid furious opposition, changed his mind. FSN's Ollie Barrett covered that story from London.
Owen Paterson standing down, not by any means admitting guilt after the process that he says he has found unfair that led to the recommended suspension of him from the House of Commons. He says he's resigning because of the treatment that he's received and his family has received in recent days and the atmosphere around the story.
28 million 5 to 12-year-olds got the green light to get vaccinated against COVID-19 in the USA. The CDC and the FDA gave their blessing. And Pfizer announced what US officials called incredible results regarding the efficacy of a pill to treat the virus. It will now be studied further by international medicines regulators. The world of entertainment mourned the loss of Lionel Blair. He died at the age of 92 after 60 years in show business. He tap danced with Sammy Davis Jr. He was a singer, a beloved actor, and a hugely popular presence on a variety of British quiz programs. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and the phones are open here. If you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, you've got Ian,
Peakless Mountaineer,
And I'm Ron Burgundy.
We're going to go to your calls and your thoughts. Also want to let you know about Bitcoin.com. You ready to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? It's probably a good plan, considering these technologies are changing the face of the world of finance. They're threatening the governments and the banks' money system, and you need to learn why it's been so successful over the last 13 years. It's been 13 years since Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin, released his white paper. It was back actually on Halloween, apparently, in 2008. So go and learn about it. When you get the chance, get over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started near the top of the page, and spend all of 3 minutes of your time watching the first video there. Now, there are more than one video, so you can watch more if you got time for it, if you've got the interest. But at the very least, you watch that first one, you'll get down some of the most basic, most important concepts about what makes this stuff important and different and evolutionary. Once again, that's Bitcoin.com. You want the latest news headlines, by the way. They've got those too over on their news site at news.bitcoin.com.
It's an exciting time in cryptocurrency because
it always is.
We are getting closer and closer to what I refer to as the inversion. Ooh. This happens in technology from time to time.
Describe what that means.
So the one that I'm most familiar with and easy to describe is the telephone inversion. Mm-hmm. So before digital technology, all telephone communication was carried over copper wires.
Right.
Copper is an analog medium, so there was no zeros and ones. It was literally wires connected together, and you had to have people operating switchboards and all that stuff. Digital technology comes along and does a much better job for a much lower price, much faster, and eventually everything starts getting replaced.
Right.
With digital, fiber optics cables and all that kind of stuff. And eventually now the internet is the phone company, right? It's all fiber optics now. There's very few places in the United States that are still copper-based. Mm-hmm. There's a couple, but they're the outliers for sure. The majority of all telephone traffic is now done digitally, so much so that they had to invent something called the comfort tone. I think I've talked about this before on Free Talk Live.
A little bit of white noise in the background.
Just a little bit of white noise because it was so clear that people thought you had hung up if there was silence in a conversation.
But what is inversion?
So the inversion is just the replacement of the old...
flippening, if you will?
The flippening, if you will, between the old technology and the new technology. So
what are you expecting to be inverted when it comes to cryptocurrency?
Well, state currency versus cryptocurrency.
Okay.
And we're seeing early signs of that right now. There are some lending companies out there, I'll let you search those on your own, that are beginning to build this sort of infrastructure that eventually will flip over, where state-based currency is going to have to operate within the structure that these crypto companies, above board, like completely legal above board cryptocurrency companies,
they're going to do everything they can to fight this,
yes,
though,
they
and
are,
it's going to get ugly.
But they're building this infrastructure and finding ways around.
That's the cool thing about crypto is they don't have to ask permission,
right?
And they can innovate without anybody. The government doesn't even know how to handle it. They're still trying to figure out what a stable coin is. Let's go to your calls, though, and thoughts. We got Van on the line listening to WQXL in Columbia, South Carolina. Go ahead, Van.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
The mandates, I'm just tired of talking about them. They're ridiculous. You guys made a really good point, the vaccines don't work and all this, and so it's just nonsense. But the Fauci guy, all right? Now, this guy, I've never trusted him since it started.
Good call.
And,
there's a lot of people who didn't trust him back in the 80s. He was pimping some sort of AIDS something or other that people were
using. No, he was testing AIDS on orphaned African children. And he was cutting their heads. He's a Dr. Mengele type of guy. All this stuff's coming out about him.
He's creepy.
And this guy, Rand Paul, the senator, Ron Paul's boy, keeps nailing him. And he's basically, this guy's got to go to jail.
He won't.
This is serious.
He's never going to see the inside of a jail cell.
He's 80 years old, and I know you guys are nonviolent, but now he's all psyched up about, shooting little kids up with his stuff. And if I saw him, man, I don't know if I could keep myself from punching him in the face. This guy is a sick man.
Yeah, well, when you go after somebody's kids, it changes how people behave, right? Like, it's one thing if there's some mandate coming down at your job, all right, you can refuse that, you can walk out the door, whatever, you got options. But now they're starting to want to jab kids, and now there's a whole propaganda campaign about it, too. Like, Big Bird just put out on social media today that he's got his shot and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's disgusting, man.
Yeah, and I gotta say, you say you could perhaps not keep yourself from punching him if you got the opportunity. I mean, from my perspective, the guy is literally guilty of mass murder.
You researched what happened.
I mean,
didn't come for. He researched. He paid for this stuff. He covered all this stuff up. It's all out there now. But you guys are right. Nothing will happen to him.
I mean, we can argue as to does he deserve to be incarcerated for the rest of his life or executed? That's a good argument to have. But clearly not to be walking around free.
Well, in the government that you have, he's going to keep his job, likely. And if he loses his job, he'll get a pension and, get a golden parachute to float on away.
Yeah, and he's unlikely to even lose any of his power.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he didn't lose his power between the different, Trump versus Biden. He was just sitting pretty, just like every other bureaucrat in D.C.
I got to say, I did appreciate the hashtag arrest Fauci starting to trend when the dog experiments came out.
Yeah, that really upset some people for sure. Van, anything else you want to share tonight, man?
No, just thanks for letting me vent, man. Fauci's got to go, and you guys just blow the horn. The guy's a criminal.
Look, the whole federal government is criminal. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know,
He's
but
just
this
one
guy's
of them.
sick.
Well, I mean, there's more and less egregious criminals, and when you are creating bioweapons and releasing them on the population,
he's one of the worst. There's no doubt. Thank you, Van, for the call tonight. But he's backed by an agency of force. The federal government has a ton of goons who will do whatever they're told to do, and it may end up coming down to where there are mandates on individuals to where if you don't get this thing, those goons will hold you down and force it into you.
I've seen this on the internet. It's a few people have said that gain-of-function research has another name. It's also development of biological warfare. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, development of biological warfare is gain-of-function research.
So they are synonymous.
So they are basically synonymous. There's the, I only did this to create better vaccines and better immunities. I mean, it's a question of intent, but as far as the actions that are taken, they are the same.
Interesting.
Yeah, look, there's not going to be a whole bunch of Rand Pauls get elected to Washington, D.C. There's not going to be a bunch of Ron Pauls get elected to Washington, D.C. These guys are the lone, carriers of the message of somewhat freedom. I mean, Rand Paul isn't even really that libertarian when all things are said and done.
He's more Republican.
Thomas Massey. There's a few up there.
He is the best senator possibly in the history of the country, but that is a very low bar.
Yeah. And he's still one of 100?
Yeah.
You know?
They're definitely the outliers, to repeat a word.
So you're not going to change this. Alu Axelman from Liberty Block, and he's now, by the way, the president of the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence, gave a little speech today at a freedom rally in Concord that I attended. I got video. I put it up on the Free Keene Odyssey channel if you want to see it. But, he's trying to let people know at this rally, which are probably mostly right-wingers that were attending this rally, is like, look, it doesn't matter who you elect. It's not going to get better in Washington, D.C. ever.
Yeah.
All you have to know to prove it is just, if you want to prove it to yourself, just look at the Times, because those of you out there that might be Republicans say, well, why don't we go Republicans? No. They were in.
Yep.
In the Bush administration, there were years where it was all Republicans, Republican House, Republican Senate, and a Republican in the presidency. Did government get smaller?
No,
not at all. Got bigger.
It got much, much bigger.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. So people repeat this idea of, well, if we can just elect people, blah, blah, blah. Okay, who gave you that? Who gave you that idea? I can tell you who gave me that idea. The government school is what put that idea in my head. Now, if I wanted to maintain my power forever, I would definitely want to put the idea that something that doesn't work does into the people who I'm trying to maintain power over.
Oh, and don't forget, we're the government. That's another lie that they tell people.
Oh, yeah.
The number here is 603-283-6160. Oh, yeah, and don't forget to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which was written by a socialist. 603-283-6160. Don't believe me? Look it up. We're coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. If you want to join us on this live Saturday edition, the number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about the vaccine mandate, and now a court has apparently put a stay on that. We haven't really gotten into that story, but that sort of was the intention. Of course, phones are open. We'll take your calls about anything that you want. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Speakless Mountaineer.
And the Reverend Captain Kickass.
And I also want to make sure that you know about Freedom's Phoenix. It's a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. So if you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty, then freedomsphoenix.com has those. And their daily dispatch will keep you up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. Freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com.
I wonder what sound a phoenix makes.
Good question. I bet
imagine
the internet
it's something
knows.
like a raptor with more fire.
Let's go to your calls and your thoughts. Starting things out here, we've got Dan. He's on the line, calling from Los Angeles. Dan, you're on Free Talk Live.
Ooh, get out of there.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Dan, what's on your mind tonight?
So, yeah, I'm over here in beautiful Los Angeles dealing with the massive tyranny we got going on in this country.
But it's way worse there, isn't it?
It's pretty bad here.
Yeah.
And
Didn't they pass a mandate,
tomorrow.
like a vaccine passport or something? What's going on with that?
That's right. So that's actually going to go into effect tomorrow.
Oof.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Monday. Monday, November 8th is when it goes into effect. So that's for Los Angeles City.
And that
anyway,
covers, hold on, I just want to make sure I got this straight. That covers things like eating inside a restaurant, going to the gym, going out to a theater. Is that what, am I getting this correct?
Yeah, you got that. Nail and hair salons, tattoo and
What about
piercing
public
places as
transportation?
well. You know what? I'm not sure about the public transportation.
Okay.
They'll get there, Captain.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, give them time. This is just the beginning, right?
Mhm.
So, I would imagine that will be coming at this pretty soon. But yeah, so that's all happening. However, we are fighting back against it. We have a website up right now called medicalfreedomla.com, and that is being organized by the LA County Libertarian Party, and we are filing an initiative to push back against this. So we need signatures, lots and lots of signatures, donations. Anybody around the country can donate if you wish to help out with this battle that we're about to take on.
But why bother?
And,
I mean, why not just leave?
Seriously.
Well,
I mean, you are so heavily outnumbered. You are outgunned politically.
How many libertarians are in the Los Angeles County Libertarians?
You know what? I don't have the exact number. I
Take a shot.
But
shot in the dark.
5, 10?
Oh, it's probably like 50, right?
No, the LA County, I don't know the number, but the LA County Libertarian Party is actually bigger than many state parties. It's actually, we do have a great grip of libertarians over here. It is pretty decent.
Now, when
But
you
we
say
are
that,
outnumbered.
you mean
I'm
the
not gonna-
people
I'm
who
not
are
gonna
like
deny that.
registered as libertarians, right? I want to know how many people come out to a meetup.
Okay, so I host my meetups over here in the San Fernando Valley area,
Yeah.
and I get about 10 to 15 on a regular basis, once a month.
That's crap, dude. I mean, I'm sorry. Look, that's typical
No
for
doubt.
most cities anywhere across the United States. They can pull 5, 10, 15 libertarians in a big city like, Austin or whatever other, Tampa. You fill in the blank on that. I mean, I feel so bad for you guys. Why wouldn't you can just move out of the 49th least free state in all of the United States. It is one of the worst places to live, and you live in one of the worst cities in the state of California. You could instantly,
if not in fact the worst city.
You could instantly
So I
move.
have a brick and mortar. I have a brick and mortar business, which does hold me pretty tightly right now. I'm not saying I'm not concocting a plan, and I'm not paying attention to the possible eventual evacuation. But the brick and mortar business that I have, that I've been doing with my wife for the last 7 years now,
right?
It makes it a little bit difficult to.
Yeah, it's hard to walk
but
away. I mean, when people get strings tying them down to a place like that, it is difficult to sell a business or, put it in a manager's hands or something like that and walk away from it. I understand that. There's no doubt about it. But, man, I mean, it's hard to get excited about doing anything to help people that are still staying in the least free place. New York's worse, but one of the worst least free places on the face of the United States. I mean, it's just pointless. You guys are screaming at a brick wall of statism, and it's never going to go anywhere, dude. It doesn't matter how many petition signatures you get.
I mean, sure. I mean, I'm not that black-pilled on it, I guess, and maybe I'm naive, and that's fine too. But the way I look at it right now is I'm here, so, and leaving is not an option at this point, so I'm going to fight.
Well, and I wonder, why fight for that place when you could be fighting for somewhere that actually wants you to keep it free?
Sure, and that's a fair question, too. I love this place, I'll be honest. I've been living here for 20 years. I came from Massachusetts, so I'm an East Coast guy originally. But
from the frying pan into the fire.
Right.
So my question for you, though, is would you rather make a decision to leave when it's an option, or would you rather make a decision to leave when it becomes a necessity?
Sure.
Because right now it's an option, but California it's going to become a necessity, especially if somebody, who believes in the non-aggression principle, if you fall on this side of politics at all, California is not your friend.
I agree. That's the conversation I have with my wife. And so she's a little bit harder to convince. She doesn't want to leave at all. This is her home. She was born here. And so if my wife was exactly like me, the plan would already be just about executed, and I would be figuring out how to, because again, I have the brick and mortar. So I would likely move to Arizona, which is still a drive until I figure out how to do something with the business. I don't know. But the other issue is my family, and my wife is not exactly on board with leaving as I am. So
how does she feel about freedom? How does your wife feel about liberty, non-aggression, things like that?
Yeah, listen, she gets where I'm coming from. She's not as radical as I am, though. But she does understand certain things. But like I'll say, the whole taxation is theft thing, like she doesn't agree with that. So it's like that's I'm still working on that.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like whenever I hear about libertarians living out in Los Angeles, I think it's like you guys are like a prison gang. You're trying to appeal to the warden to, give you guys an extra scoop of ice cream once a week or something like that. That's really how it comes off. And I feel for you, man. But I'll tell you what, I don't think anybody should pour money into your effort. I'm just being honest with you. It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of money. I think what you'd be better off doing is focusing on your business and making it as successful as possible, and then so you can get the hell out of there, sell that thing, get out of there. And if you haven't heard about New Hampshire, then you really ought to take some time. Yeah. You have heard about it?
Oh, yeah, I know all about the Free State Project.
Okay, great. Well, you know what?
I've known about it for a very long time.
Yeah, it's really taken off. We've got the largest concentration of freedom-loving people here on the planet, and it just keeps getting bigger. There's new movers coming in here. What is it, weekly, daily? I mean, it's crazy. It's getting crazy here. We're having tremendous successes. We've actually got libertarians in the state house. They've been elected as Republicans, and there's dozens of them.
And I mean, one of the arguments that we have fairly frequently here is how effective and useful politics is for making change. And I mean, in a place like New Hampshire, there's actually an argument to be made for politics being a method of changing things.
Yes.
Rather than, as I view it, which is largely just a pulpit to speak from, so to speak, a soapbox, if you will. But there's at least an argument in a place like this of making real change through the political process. Whereas in a place like California, and especially Los Angeles, I just don't even see why that would be worth the time and effort of even trying.
Dan, go ahead, plug your website one more time, though, in case somebody does, want to help the prison gang.
Fair enough. It's medicalfreedomla.com.
Seriously, good luck to you, man, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you visiting out here. Bring the wife. See if you can convince her to come out to the Porcupine Freedom Festival or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let her get a taste of what it's like here in New Hampshire. Get a taste of what it's like around this community of freedom lovers, and you can open carry and do cool stuff like that here that you can't ever do in some place like Los Angeles. Thank you for the call tonight, Dan. I appreciate it. Just feel so bad for those guys, man. Those gals and. Tough.
I mean, the position that
they
he's
love it
in,
there.
Like, I can sympathize. I was
You were in Seattle.
In Seattle, and I feel lucky.
Well, and how long
that
before,
you got out?
And how long before it gets so authoritarian that they literally won't let you leave California?
Yeah. You're not going to be able to have a gas-powered lawnmower soon in the state of California. They passed that law, by the way. Gas-powered lawnmowers, all lawn equipment, generators is going to be outlawed. You won't be able. You might be able to have a grandfathered one, but you won't be able to buy brand new ones at the store. There's more coming up here. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with a hard-fought win for the White House, the passage of President Biden's infrastructure proposals after a day of more infighting among Democrats. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, says the president's Build Back Better public spending plan may not secure congressional support until late November. The Democrats paid the price this week for their internal warfare, losing the race for the governor of Virginia. A Republican, Glenn Youngkin, won a shock come-from-behind victory.
We are going to start that transformation on day one.
His win in Virginia and a stronger-than-expected Republican performance in New Jersey terrified Democrats. They fear the Republicans will now recapture both houses of Congress in midterm elections next year. The election results came hours after President Biden returned to the US from COP26 in Glasgow. At the climate change summit, he insisted America was reclaiming a position of world leadership, and he chided the leaders of China and Russia for staying away.
The fact that China trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up? Come on.
Environmental activists say they've been disappointed by COP26 so far. Greta Thunberg telling supporters that it's a business-as-usual talking shop, despite agreements to reduce deforestation and global dependence on coal. Britain was rocked by a political scandal. A member of the governing Conservative Party resigned from Parliament after Prime Minister Boris Johnson tried to defend him against corruption allegations, but then, amid furious opposition, changed his mind. FSN's Ollie Barrett covered that story from London.
Owen Paterson standing down, not by any means admitting guilt after the process that he says he has found unfair that led to the recommended suspension of him from the House of Commons. He says he's resigning because of the treatment that he's received and his family has received in recent days and the atmosphere around the story.
28 million 5 to 12-year-olds got the green light to get vaccinated against COVID-19 in the USA. The CDC and the FDA gave their blessing. And Pfizer announced what US officials called incredible results regarding the efficacy of a pill to treat the virus. It will now be studied further by international medicines regulators. The world of entertainment mourned the loss of Lionel Blair. He died at the age of 92 after 60 years in show business. He tap danced with Sammy Davis Jr. He was a singer, a beloved actor, and a hugely popular presence on a variety of British quiz programmes. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Job openings and key inflation data will be in focus on Wall Street in the coming week. Investors will be looking to build on last week's strong momentum that was fueled by a stronger-than-expected jobs report. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo.
Last week, the Federal Reserve announced it's tapering its bond-buying programme, but indicated it will remain patient on when to start raising interest rates. Inflation has been a concern for the Fed, but the central bank expects pricing pressures to be transitory. This week, Consumer Price Index data, a key inflation tracker, out Wednesday, will be watched closely. Turning to the labour market, data out last week showed the economy added a better-than-expected 531,000 jobs in October. But there were more than 10 million job openings in August, and investors hope September's figures, out on Friday, will show an improvement.
Texas and 10 other states are suing the Biden administration, attempting to overturn what they insist are unconstitutional vaccine mandates. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Tony Waterman is covering that story.
Texas called the vaccine mandate bad policy and bad law, asking the court to strike it down. The suit comes just a day after the Biden administration set a January 4th deadline for private companies with 100 or more employees to ensure their workforces are either vaccinated or undergoing weekly testing. Certain healthcare workers must be fully vaccinated. The White House says the requirements are necessary to halt the virus's spread, but at least 18 states have now filed lawsuits to block its enforcement, arguing it's an overreach of federal powers.
Stories will be reporting in the coming week. Once again, the Democrats' efforts to pass Joe Biden's domestic legislative agenda. The second week of COP26 in Glasgow. Will it yield much progress? And a crucial Communist Party meeting convenes in Beijing. And that's the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. A month after the death of leader Kim Jong-il, North Korea's 24.5 million citizens have returned to their regular daily routines this week, holding a festive synchronized disco jump rope gala in Pyongyang's main public square. Life in the hermetic communist nation is reportedly beginning to normalize following the protracted mourning period, with citizens once again donning their brightly colored uniforms and performing intricate gymnastics routines in perfect unison.
It is an inspiring sight to see so many loyal citizens find the strength to unfurl their long silken streamers and do dozens of tandem backflips set to dance music.
Observers reported that new North Korean leader Kim Jong-un nodded once in approval of the disco jump rope gala, signaling an official transfer of power.
A recent study from the Centers for Disease Control finds that over 100 million children are being exposed to harmful levels of stupidity in their own homes. Hear the debate about secondhand ignorance on the next In the Know.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour here of the live Saturday episode. We do these things every single night of the week. If you've missed a moment, you can just go to freetalklive.com and you can download at your leisure. You can also subscribe to our podcast and then just receive the episodes automatically. You can go to feeds.freetalklive.com to find multiple RSS feed and podcast options for your favorite podcast client. Over at feeds.freetalklive.com. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And the captain.
We're going to hopefully we'll get into the story that you brought in, Peakless Mountaineer, about there's a court apparently that has put a stay on the Biden vaccine mandate applying to companies with over 100.
Are they going to put a rollover and a play dead on it too?
Employees. We'll get into it coming up here. Will it make any difference in the long run? That's one of the things I want to talk about with that. But let's go first to your phone calls and thoughts. We have the ghost of John McAfee calling in from Columbia, South Carolina, listening to WQXL. Go ahead.
I wish he'd have called on Halloween.
Hello.
Oh, glad to have you now. Go ahead there, Ghost.
Hey, did any of you guys happen to hear this conference? It was Fauci and two other authoritarians. This was aired on C-SPAN in late 2019, and they were at the Milken Institute, and I believe it was called The Future of Vaccines, is what it said on the TV screen.
What was the context? I mean, what happened?
I mean, I heard this like a few weeks ago, and my mind was blown. Like, I already thought that they planned all this, but they are openly saying on that program, I'll just give you a few of the quotes. They were like, well, why don't we just blow the system up? How are we going to get people to take mRNA vaccines? And Fauci's sitting there like, yeah, it usually takes like 10 whole years. So if we did everything perfectly, it would take like 10 years. And then the other guy's like, well, we need some kind of event or something that will bypass the regular bureaucratic procedures, safety standards. And they're like openly saying all this. And I'm like, oh my God, this was at the end of 2019, right before, 2020. And I could not believe all that, but I mean,
believe it.
People are
I'm
so
not
bold.
surprised. Yeah,
believe it. That actually crossed my feed, but I did not watch the video because at first I had your reaction. I'm like, I can't believe this, and then I'm like, well, of course I can.
A lot of times they just put it right out in your face.
Yeah, it sounds like a perfect parallel to the Carnegie Foundation's notes. So they got together and they're like, okay, we want to do this, this, and this, basically to turn America into something that is basically communist and can interface easily and effectively with other communist nations. And they're like, okay, well, how do we do a major change? It looks like the only effective way to do that is war. And big bang boom, World War I happens. So they get back together and they say, okay, looks like we've made all the changes that we needed to make. How do we keep these in place? And they say, okay, well, it looks like the best way of doing that is through education. And suddenly they change the entire educational system.
Well, and didn't the same thing happen with money with the war, too? They were like, well, we can't afford all these wars if our money is backed by gold, and so we need to
fiat currency.
Yes, we need to eliminate the backing in order for us to be able to borrow so we can fund our wars. That way the people won't freak out when they see the bill.
I don't know where those particular notes are, but it certainly doesn't surprise me.
I mean, it's not a secret. What it was, the creature of Jekyll Island, I think, goes into a lot of this stuff. Go ahead, Ghost.
Yeah, I tried to bring that up to some other talk show hosts, and they were like, "No, that the U.S. government would never do something like that." I'm just like, "You don't know the U.S. government." Then.
Yeah,
that could never happen.
It's
here.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that you could be in the year 2021 and still believe that, oh no, the U.S. government actually has your best interests at heart. Ridiculous.
Right.
Thanks for the call tonight, man. I definitely appreciate hearing from you. That's the ghost of John McAfee.
People I keep seeing this sort of like shaming people who say this. People will say on social media or wherever, they'll say, well, I went online and I did my own research. And like people are getting shamed for that. And I'm like, why would you ever shame anybody for taking initiative to go to the largest library that has ever existed in all of mankind to find information about a topic that you are interested in?
No, Captain.
This guy's learning on his own. Get him.
You must believe the experts. We have selected them. They know what they're doing. They've gone to school.
I'll be the judge of my own experts, thank you.
Yeah. Who are these people anyway? Let's go to Jerome. He's on the line in South Carolina. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Jerome.
Hey, there's a couple of people on this show need to be committed to an asylum. Okay?
Really?
The one that said that Fauci is like a mass murderer and a few other crazy comments. Yeah, you sound like Republicans. When you say you got libertarians up there getting elected as Republicans, yeah, because that's what they are. Crazy Republicans.
No, that's not true. We've actually had some get elected as Democrats, but not as many because it all depends on what district you're in. Huh?
Democrats like Manchin, like a traitor like Manchin.
Jerome,
that's a Democrat.
Jerome, are you a dog lover?
Huh?
Because I don't know if you heard about the story about what Fauci's and his
I don't
goons do
believe
to
that.
dogs.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe it?
You don't believe it?
How much
Rand Paul's a
documentation do you
fool.
want, man?
Hey, who'd you get that from? Rand Paul? Rand Paul's a fool.
Just to be clear, let's talk about what we're referring to in case some of our listeners don't know. What are you referring to with the dogs, Captain?
There were experiments done where dogs, supposedly, allegedly, had their vocal cords cut, and they were, well, their faces were eaten by
And who'd you
some
hear
sort of
that
critters.
from?
Some sort of critters.
Who did you hear it from?
Oh, it was covered here on Free Talk Live, by the way.
U.S. senators
Who'd you hear
actually
from?
brought it up in a hearing.
Yeah, and who's the senator's name? What's the senator's name?
There were several of them, actually.
And the same people like that stormed the Capitol and talk about you going to die tonight. You think I'm going to listen to fools like Rand Paul, who got his ass kicked? Rand Paul, who got his ass kicked, and by the way, he didn't get his ass kicked good enough because he's still a fool.
Wait, are you vaccinated, Jerome?
How about the people for the ethical treatment of animals?
I'm vaccinated.
Jerome.
You're damn right, because I'm smarter than that.
Jerome, how about the people for the ethical treatment of animals? Do you believe them?
Yeah, I believe them. I mean,
well, guess what? They had the same exact questions. PETA stated that Fauci and his organization. This is from WTRF.com. PETA stated that. Will you listen? Will you listen? Are you going to listen?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, you can't talk if you're listening, right? By definition, if words are coming out of your mouth, you are not listening. So let me give it to you. Just here's what PETA had to say. They stated that Fauci and his organization's explanation of making a mistake is not enough, and that this is not the first time the National Institutes of Health conducted horrific animal experiments. PETA is demanding that Fauci release the original grant document, which was $1.68 million to put inhumane experiments on beagle puppies, where they conducted them under the supervision of Dr. Fauci, involved severing the puppy's vocal cords so they were unable to bark in pain while they were being eaten alive.
I don't believe it.
While they were being eaten alive by sandflies.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
You're like a little child that puts...
It's like when he said he's guilty of mass murder.
I'm putting you on hold, bro.
He's got his fingers in his ears.
That's exactly what Jerome is doing. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I can't hear you. La 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 la.
Yep. You don't want to hear what... Okay, sure, they were Republican senators, but how often does PETA work with the Republicans? Those are two organizations, two groups that generally they're like oil and water, right? Like they don't usually team up on anything, but they teamed up on this one because, you know, politics makes for strange bedfellows, as they say.
It's horrible. I mean, I'm a lifelong dog lover, and so and people have pointed out, they're like, oh, it took puppies for people to realize Fauci was evil. Well, okay, whatever it takes, man. Like, people should be, sort of, have
It'd be
Fauci
nice if they cared about
light,
human life enough to go, oh, wow, you're a monster.
Well, here's what you can
whatever it takes.
Here's what you can do is you can say, all right, well, if Fauci is willing to torture dogs to death by having them eaten alive by sand fleas and cutting their vocal cords so they wouldn't bark about it, then what's he willing to do to humans? If he's willing to do that to puppies,
yes,
what's he willing to do to human beings? And then you will start to scratch the surface of the potential horrors this man has gotten people involved in. The number here is 603-283-6160. I did tell Jerome I was putting him on hold. If he wants to come back, we'll bring him back, give him a chance to comment here.
Okay.
Maybe he actually listened instead of screaming into his hold the entire time.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Do you ever say, I could care less, when you really mean the opposite? You mean to say, I couldn't care less. It's a common mistake. You are judged by how you speak, especially if you're looking for work, with so many more applicants than openings now. But even if you're not, avoiding common misstatements will help you make the most of the dozens of conversations and transactions that crowd your daily routine. So whatever you say, don't say whatever as a single word sentence. It's the most annoying expression in the American English language, according to a recent poll. And avoid cliches like the plague. Just kidding. But seriously, at the end of the day, you'll want to avoid this scenario, sounding like everyone else. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. The phones here, they're open. Actually, only one line's open. Busy night on the phones tonight, but we will get you on. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And Peakless Mountaineer, you were just asking off the air, what was that non-know your customer, no KYC as they call it, exchange that we've been talking about recently? It's X Markets, exmarkets.com. Now, they're not actually a sponsor, I want to make clear. But we're talking about them in relation to Intercoin, which is a sponsor here on Free Talk Live. They can help any business or organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. Now, Intercoin has launched its investor token worldwide, and it's now, for the very first time ever, available on an exchange. It used to be available only to what they call accredited investors. This was like last year when we were first talking about them, which was a bummer because, it's only super rich people that could get into it. And this is because stupid government rules make it so they couldn't offer it to just anybody. But after a certain period of time has gone by, then they can open it up a little bit. And so now it's opened up. Now anybody who goes to exmarkets.com, that's xmarkets.com, you can register with just an email address so you keep your privacy intact. And you can then deposit dozens of different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, trade them for Tether on the exchange, and then trade the Tether for ITR, which is the Intercoin Investor Token. And you can learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org, and of course buy and sell ITR over at xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts. I did say I was going to give Jerome a chance to respond to the fact that PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, and several senators teamed up to demand answers from Fauci. Doesn't matter. He was killing dogs, killing puppies for quote-unquote science. But by the way, he did it in Africa. Go ahead.
But let me say, okay. The same people that are going after Fauci with all these crazy stories, those are the same people that voted for a guy who said, I can shoot people and I wouldn't lose any voters.
So PETA voted for Trump?
Who's the human being then? Who's the inhumane one?
I just want to know how Trump got PETA to vote for him, that's all.
Shooting people. Who's the inhumane one?
He'll never answer your question because he hasn't actually heard you ask it.
Although Peakless Mountaineer did want to give Jerome an answer to his question about how is Fauci a mass murderer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay, so between his endorsement of masks and all of their very severe medical issues, his endorsement of the vaccines and all of the people that those have killed, let's see. Oh, and the fact that he personally funded the research in the Wuhan lab that at least contributed to, if not directly created, the COVID-19 virus in the first place. I mean,
which was during the Trump administration.
Yeah, during the Trump administration.
Is Trump a mass
for
murderer?
starters.
Is Trump a mass murderer?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Every president I've ever,
I can't believe you answered that.
Absolutely.
Jerome,
you said yes.
Have you ever listened to a word coming out of our mouths? We are critical of every single person in Washington, D.C. Anyone in the halls of power is pretty much evil, and certainly the presidents are. Yep. Donald Trump dropped bombs on innocent people in the Middle East, and so did his predecessors.
I know he did.
Yeah.
I know he did.
So did Obama.
He also said, I can shoot people, and I wouldn't lose any voters. So who's the inhumane one? Fauci or Trump?
Oh, and
both.
Both of them.
That is a false choice.
Yeah. You understand Fauci was employed during Trump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he didn't agree with anything. As a matter of fact, he said, this virus or the Democrats are
if he didn't agree with him, he could have fired him. But he didn't.
He said
they're both on the same team, Jerome.
To run me out of office.
Sorry, bro. There's way more than just partisan politics here. They're on the same exact team.
Two wings, same bird.
Thanks for the call tonight. Let's continue with more of your calls and thoughts. We have Adam in Maryland. You're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Adam.
It's been a long time since I called in, guys. Thank you for. I've been a listener on and off since 2005, maybe 2004.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay. And, because of your insights over the years, I was able to call out this stuff, from the beginning with these, the first with the lockdowns, now with the mandates. And I just, I long for the days where the Second Amendment was our most important issue of the day. You know what I mean?
Well, I'd have to say that we lost that a very long time ago. I mean, the Second Amendment protects arms. Now, it has been a very long time since you were able to have whatever the most modern military equipment was.
That is true.
Well, that said, I mean, New Hampshire is still relatively free compared to the rest of the states as far as gun rights are concerned. In fact, it might be the most free at the moment.
And well-armed.
And is a highly well-armed state. There's no doubt.
It's also worth pointing out that the entire landscape of the argument of Second Amendment has fundamentally changed with 3D printed guns.
Oh yeah, for the better.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Adam. Anything else you want to share? What were you calling about?
I was mainly calling about to just express my opposition to these mandates. I mean, I thought that they were already bad. A month ago when it was for federal workers and federal contractors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, we all saw it coming. If you know anything about libertarianism, you give these people, the government, an inch, they'll take a mile or 10 miles.
Yep.
And I just, the lucky thing is I've never seen so many people politically active in my life because of all this stuff. And I just want to, again, thank you guys for caring. Thank you all for, being a part of what the founding fathers meant this country to be. And the Free State Project, I believe that's still going on, right?
Oh, it's going on better than ever. We're seeing record numbers of people coming to not just visit, but also move here in the last year or two. It really started to kick up in 2020 as the COVID crackdowns around the country started going into high gear. And now a lot of the people who came to visit in 2020 are making the move in 2021. We're seeing record numbers coming here. It is, of course, the best place to be if you love liberty. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be around other people like you?
Very true. Well, in the meantime, before I can move to New Hampshire or somewhere else that's free, in Maryland, we finally held a rally outside the FDA headquarters, the main headquarters in Silver Spring yesterday. And we're going to have an even bigger one next Saturday. But, like you guys said, it's like, unless you're surrounded by other people that like freedom, all the voices in the world, and I saw over 100,000 people submitted comments to the FDA for these that opposed the vaccine approval, and the vast majority of them were in opposition.
But they voted unanimously for it anyway. They voted unanimously to approve it for 5 to 11-year-olds, I think now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the new thing. It's frustrating, Adam. Thank you for the call tonight, man. I definitely appreciate hearing from you. The number here is 603-283-6160.
It is going to get worse before it gets better. It's just beginning to spill over into, the normies' lives.
Yeah. Well, New Hampshire isn't free. I mean, he suggested that it was, and it may seem that way in comparison to some places, but we still have our work cut out for us here. It's just we actually have a chance to win. We are winning in a lot of ways. A lot of the progressives, a lot of the statists are pissed about the fact that there are dozens of free staters who are in the state house right now here in New Hampshire, and have been. Many of them been there for multiple terms, by the way. This is Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate. Results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great. Homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with a hard-fought win for the White House, the passage of President Biden's infrastructure proposals after a day of more infighting among Democrats. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, says the president's Build Back Better public spending plan may not secure congressional support until late November. The Democrats paid the price this week for their internal warfare, losing the race for the governor of Virginia. A Republican, Glenn Youngkin, won a shock come-from-behind victory.
We are going to start that transformation on day one.
His win in Virginia and a stronger-than-expected Republican performance in New Jersey terrified Democrats. They fear the Republicans will now recapture both houses of Congress in midterm elections next year. The election results came hours after President Biden returned to the US from COP26 in Glasgow. At the Climate Change Summit, he insisted America was reclaiming a position of world leadership, and he chided the leaders of China and Russia for staying away.
The fact that China trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up, come on.
Environmental activists say they've been disappointed by COP26 so far. Greta Thunberg telling supporters that it's a business-as-usual talking shop, despite agreements to reduce deforestation and global dependence on coal. Britain was rocked by a political scandal. A member of the governing Conservative Party resigned from Parliament after Prime Minister Boris Johnson tried to defend him against corruption allegations, but then, amid furious opposition, changed his mind. FSN's Ollie Barrett covered that story from London.
Owen Paterson standing down, not by any means admitting guilt after the process that he says he has found unfair that led to the recommended suspension of him from the House of Commons. He says he's resigning because of the treatment that he's received and his family has received in recent days and the atmosphere around the story.
28 million 5 to 12-year-olds got the green light to get vaccinated against COVID-19 in the USA. The CDC and the FDA gave their blessing. And Pfizer announced what US officials called incredible results regarding the efficacy of a pill to treat the virus. It will now be studied further by international medicines regulators. The world of entertainment mourned the loss of Lionel Blair. He died at the age of 92 after 60 years in show business. He tap danced with Sammy Davis Jr. He was a singer, a beloved actor, and a hugely popular presence on a variety of British quiz programs. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live, open phones. As always, the number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live brought to you by BitBox, one of the newest hardware wallets on the scene. Of course, it's generally a bad idea to keep a large amount of cryptocurrency on your phone because, bad things can happen to phones. It could get stolen, for instance. Now, of course, if you get your backup words, then if the phone breaks, you can usually come back from that one. But a stolen phone is going to be pretty tricky. Obviously, you should have security and things like that, but you don't want to put your Bitcoin and your other cryptocurrencies at risk. So you might want to look into a hardware wallet like the BitBox. Now, one of the things they're doing differently with BitBox is it is completely open source. And so it doesn't have some of the problems that other hardware wallets have. And we're going to be giving away 3 of the latest versions of the BitBox very soon here on Free Talk Live. So stay tuned for details on how to enter those giveaway contests. But if you don't want to wait for those or take your chances, just go ahead and get your own over at box.freetalklive.com. That'll forward you right to the BitBox website. And, of course, we get some credit for the fact that we sent you there, box.freetalklive.com. And when you use code FTL, like Free Talk Live, at checkout, you will save 5% on your BitBox. So head over to box.freetalklive.com. We go to your phone calls and your thoughts. First up, we have Padraig. He's on the line in New Mexico, listening on the radio. Go ahead, Padraig.
Can you gentlemen hear me okay?
Yes, sir. What's on your mind?
Good. Well, I'm running for governor of the state of New Mexico. Probably as a write-in, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'd like your support. I'd like the people in New Mexico support. I lean more towards libertarian, but I didn't see much that Governor Johnson did for the state of New Mexico. I ran against Steve Pierce down in Roswell, New Mexico, when he first ran as representative, and I think I can do a better job. I think that the governor's only elected for 4 years or a 2-year term, 8 years, if they're lucky. But
So hold on. Why wouldn't you, if you feel like you're mostly libertarian, why not try for the Libertarian Party's nomination?
Well, that's what I'm calling you about.
What do you mean?
Because I need your help. I need the people of the state of New Mexico's help. I can't do this alone. I'm just a farmer. I know how to farm and do remodeling. That's what I do for a living. So any suggestions that you come up with, I'm all
Well,
in.
I'll tell you what. I mean, generally, the political process is brutal. It's inefficient. It's expensive. I don't know all the details about how bad it is down in New Mexico. I mean, we certainly have had a regular caller call in from there, David from Albuquerque, who's told us about some of the rampant corruption. New Mexico is sort of known as one of the most corrupt states. So don't be surprised if you're targeted for some sort of retaliation by the people in the halls of power if you're a threat. But a write-in candidate by default is generally not a threat whatsoever, because almost never do write-in candidates actually achieve the level of votes necessary, write-in votes necessary to actually qualify for a ballot. So you're pretty much going to be done before you even start. The media is going to ignore you completely. You will have absolutely no coverage and therefore no way to actually get the word out about your campaign and actually attempt to get people to write you in. So it's pretty much going to be a failure is my prediction. I mean, I'd love to be proven wrong about that, but that's the way these systems are designed. They're designed to keep all but the politically connected class out from playing. Now, if you were to, let's say, get friendly with the Libertarian Party there in New Mexico, I presume there is one, and they're looking for a candidate, then you probably would, be up against their other candidates. Maybe there's, going to be another couple folks that are looking to get their nomination. You would have to secure that nomination from them, and then in that case, you would at least have some level of activists supporting your campaign. Then maybe you would have a chance of getting on the ballot. I don't know what kind of signature requirements or filing fees or whatever it is that they have there, but I can tell you this. In almost every state in the United States, the Republicans and Democrats have written the rules to stop you from playing. They have written the rules to keep third parties out, and write-in candidates they don't even have a chance in hell. But I would say your best bet would be to go with a third party like a libertarian. But then again, if you're not truly libertarian, you may be defeated by somebody who is more aligned with the philosophy of freedom. But it may still be the best bet for you, because you're pretty much done right when you start with a write-in campaign.
Well, I understand that. I was a registered libertarian in Colorado, and I ran for county commissioner up there. I was on the school board up there, and I've seen things going wrong sideways for the last 4 decades. It was just a handwriting on the wall. I mean, every time you turn around. So,
well, Pedreg, I wish you the best. Let us know how things are going for you, and thanks for the call tonight.
Like, I totally believe that Pedreg could do a better job. That's like not even a question in my mind. If he were elected,
if he's not corrupted by power, which does happen to people.
Right. But it's everything else that you alluded to that's preventing people with noble intentions from actually getting in and doing these noble things that they intend to do.
Yeah.
Well, and since you're probably going to waste your time with that, you may as well just try and become the Republican nominee, because it doesn't look like they get elected either for governor of New Mexico.
Yeah, it's a heavily blue state, so pretty tough to win that one. The number here is 603-283-6160. I think I saw a press release from the National Libertarian Party bragging about they got more libertarians elected in, I guess, 2021 than any other year in the party's roughly 50-year history. But it's all a bunch of like dog catchers and water and soil boards. I think they had they listed a few different of the offices that they won, and the only ones they listed that were like the big offices were like a couple of town councils somewhere.
Right.
Because
we got more nearly powerless positions than ever, guys.
Right. Like that's the big problem with, we'll call it the uppercase L libertarians, is that, you know, they're stuck in the party mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, it's been 50 years, guys.
It's not working.
Unless you focus all of your efforts on something like, I don't know, one state,
mm-hmm.
you know, like New Hampshire, for example, right? To get all of your libertarian folks to come out here and, you know, infiltrate and otherwise take over and, you know, make it sort of our own. You know, I feel like it's too decentralized and too fractured and too stuck in the party mindset to be effective.
What's the definition of insanity? One of them, at least.
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be Einstein's definition for insanity.
And the reality is, for libertarians, you guys have been doing the same crap for decades, and you still can't pull more than 2% in your typical three-way election. So it's not growing, okay? It's not like, we're right on the cusp of a win.
Yeah.
No, you're nowhere near it.
And this is why I very much appreciate the new stance that the Mises Caucus and Dave Smith in particular are taking it, where no, this is here for messaging. We want to get this message out so people are, because people are like, no, people know what a libertarian is and they're familiar with the ideas. No, they're not. They have no idea what a libertarian is. They have no idea what these ideas are.
And people like Gary Johnson didn't help.
Exposed to logic and freedom and non-aggression and property rights. They've just never really been exposed to these ideas. So using it as a soapbox, as a pulpit, as an amplifier, as a stage, that I think is just a way better use of resources, especially when it comes to the national level. Because even on a state level, you have no real chance of getting someone elected.
Yeah,
unless you're in New Hampshire, in which case you should run as a Republican or Democrat, and then you'll actually win.
A focused party working on getting principled candidates would have some creativity behind them. They'd have some really unique publicity stunts.
They'd also have the ability to choose, because one of the problems you have in most states with libertarians is you've got the same 30 or 50 people across the whole state, or 100 if it's a big populous state or something. This is it. And so you're pulling your candidates from this tiny little, choice, amount of people.
Small pool.
There's only so many of those 100 people that actually want to run for governor. So you might only have 2 of them or 1 of them. And it's the same guy, and he sucks. He's like some crazy autistic guy who can't speak or whatever, but he's willing to run. So he's all you got. And you put him on the ballot. Whereas here in New Hampshire, there's thousands of liberty-minded people who've come here, and the ones that want to run are way better spoken. You know why? Because they're self-selected. They're the best activists out there. They've come here because they know the best of the best are in New Hampshire, and that means we have choice here. So we're coming up. You can bring up what you want. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
It's not just zoning rules, it's everything.
It's true.
It's everything. There's
so many rules.
So many laws. You can't possibly know them. It's physically an impossibility to know the laws. You know not to hurt other people. I don't need a law telling me to do that. But the rest of them? Totally inaccessible.
It's true.
It's written in legalese. If you don't have training in reading that crap, it might as well be a foreign language. And as you pointed out, it doesn't matter if you can read it.
I thought I had them dead to rights. And these bureaucrats, they just no, we do whatever we want here at the zoning board.
Yeah, that's right.
And you'll kiss our butts.
Peon. Serf.
You'll
slave.
You'll do what we say.
Yeah. Why label them citizens?
Oh.
Why not just call it what it is? You're a serf. You're a slave.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. Busy night on the phones. That's the way I like it here on the radio.
Your call is important to us. Please continue to hold.
Oh, and I didn't mention earlier, we do have several lines in which you can call in. 603-283-6160 will allow you to do that. But we also have SIP. What is that? Well, it's like an internet telephony thing. And
it's the opposite of chug.
And you can call with that and sound way better than a typical phone call. The way you do it is you go to learn how to do it. There's some steps you got to jump through, some hoops. But it's free to do it. You can go to sip.freetalklive.com. That'll take you to a forum thread where I outline exactly the steps you need to go through. If you want to sound, like you're almost sitting here in the studio with us. Very rarely is that line used, but I do like keeping it around for those that take the time to bother. So check that out. sip.freetalklive.com. We go to your calls and more of your thoughts here. Let's go first to Larry. He's calling us from Indianapolis. Larry, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead. Did we lose you, Larry? Oh, man, what a bummer. I had not heard from Larry in, I don't know, more than a year. Long time caller. He used to call us all the time from Indy. Larry, are you there? Going once. Going twice.
Larry.
That's a bummer. Hopefully he'll call back. 603-283-6160. Let's go instead to Roland, listening to us on KXLY in Spokane, Washington. Roland, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on here.
Thanks, dude. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about mandates.
Sure.
It seems to me that they've got everything backwards. When they get elected to office, whoever they might be, they are mandated by us to do the will of the Constitution and those who elected them.
Yeah, but they don't think so.
They don't think so. That's the problem. You're right.
Yeah.
What mandates should be is exactly the opposite of what they're doing. we mandate them to uphold that Constitution. Now, the Constitution does indeed have some mandates, very few. In other words, provide for the common defense, balance the budget. The kind of providing for the common defense, balancing the budget, I don't know.
Roland, how do you enforce those mandates?
See, that's the thing. We always, at least I always thought there were checks and balances in which such things as we see now couldn't happen.
Well, they tell you that, but I think that you and I have both seen enough evidence to believe the opposite of that.
Yes, you're correct. Unfortunately,
turns out all three branches believe the government should get bigger and more intrusive and more powerful.
Well, and I mean, you say they have these things they're supposed to be doing, but last I checked, they literally do the exact opposite of every single one of them. Like, balance the budget? Are you kidding me?
They're going to raise the debt ceiling again in less than a month.
I mean, keep us safe? They literally invented the Taliban. I mean...
Yep.
There's more prisoners in the United States than there ever were in the Soviet gulags.
More than in China, I believe.
In fact, there's more incarcerated people in the United States of America per capita even than any other place on the planet.
Yeah, strange way to secure our liberty.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not trying to bum you out here, Roland, but that's just the reality.
No,
so.
I got you. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are going to start wondering, hey, wait a minute. There have to be checks and balances somewhere. I believe
Here's the best check and balance. Here's the best check and balance. To say goodbye and call this a day. To say, you know what, this experiment has failed, and there's no benefit to having a federal government. Like, think about it. What could possibly be the benefit of having this humongous bureaucracy shoving rules, regulations, taxation down your throat? What do you get out of it?
Well, I think if it went back to the constitutional intent,
it's not going
then
to.
It would go. Well, even if it could, if it hypothetically could, then we'd just be back here. I mean, we started there, and it led to this.
Either the Constitution, as Lysander Spooner put it, it empowered them to do this, or it was powerless to prevent them from doing it.
Well, that remains for we the people to decide.
Well, here's what you ought to decide is to say, you know what, State of Washington, we're out of here. We're going to call it a day. We're seceding from the United States. That's what we're working on here in New Hampshire, Texas, California.
In Washington, that'd be a cold day in hell in Washington, I think, because of most of the voters here. But
well, you'd be surprised. There was actually a study done, I think it was this year, if not last year, that looked at voters all across the United States. And there's a significant portion of the left coast, if you will, even the progressives out there. A lot of them support independence for their states because they don't.
They did just vote somebody in from another party that wasn't an independent, but for the first time in 20 or 30 years, which was interesting, during this last election cycle. You probably heard about it.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
A Republican was voted in on the west coast of Washington here.
Oh, wow.
No.
It will change nothing. It will change absolutely nothing.
It's true.
But it does show a little discontent, doesn't it?
Maybe.
No. I'm with him on that. I mean, it doesn't cause an actual meaningful change, but it does express a different, a different perspective, and that the people of that region have different priorities than they used to.
Roland, thanks for the call tonight. I definitely appreciate hearing from you.
Can I say?
Oh, nope. You can't.
Guess not.
Maybe tomorrow night. You can call tomorrow night. We're here every single night. So if you don't ever get enough, you feel like, oh, man, I didn't have enough time to express myself, call tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow on Free Talk Live. We continue here. We've got Robert in South Carolina. You're on Free Talk Live listening to WTMA in Charleston.
Yes, hi. This is Robert, and I just wanted to say that, I listened to that discussion between Dr. Fauci and Senator Rand Paul, and my background is that of a translator and interpreter overseas. I came back here 16 and a half years ago. But I just wanted to say that, listening carefully to Senator Paul, I noticed that he's a very articulate speaker. He knows what vocabulary is probably going to be understood by the people, the general population, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And he also happens to be a doctor.
Yes, he's very, very good. I mean, and very logical, a brilliant mind. And Dr. Fauci doesn't really compare with that. And Dr. Fauci tries to use obfuscations to try to to duck out of situations.
That's because he's a lying politician.
He's a weasel.
It's true.
He even looks like a mouse.
Yes, and he should be careful not to do that, but he doesn't have the ability that Rand Paul has, and that's why he can't do it, because he simply doesn't have it. That's his problem. Do you see that as well?
I don't watch this stuff.
I've been watching it. I found it quite entertaining, but yeah, it is fun to watch him squirm, honestly, because he's clearly not used to being called on his lies, on his manipulations, on his general tyranny.
Robert, thanks for the call tonight, man. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. You know, I've heard that some of these clips are interesting where Paul's got him on the ropes or whatever, but what difference does it make?
Until he's fired or otherwise, done away with and is stripped of the powers that he supposedly has.
Not going to happen.
Seemingly has. It's not going to change. Things are going to continue
down the path. And it wouldn't change anyway.
Going.
Here's the thing. Like, look at New York, for instance, where the governor, Cuomo, got booted. He actually got kicked out of the governor's seat. And now what? There's some bitch with Vaxxed as a necklace who's now in charge doing the same crap. Maybe she's not touching her female employees, but she's doing all the same terrible tyranny stuff going on. So Fauci goes out, number 2 comes in, whoever the hell that is, whatever a-hole that is.
Well, I will say that a tyrant that goes unquestioned moves faster.
Okay.
So if he is being publicly put through the ringer on this, it actually causes people to go, now, wait a second, I think you're on to something here. And
there's no doubt.
It at least slows down the oncoming tyranny.
There's no doubt that I'm not saying Rand Paul shouldn't do what he's doing. Maybe someone will see that and have their eyes opened up or whatever. That can't hurt. But I'm just saying in the long run, won't make any difference to what the federal government's going to do.
Yeah, the question for the listeners is if, quote, we the people, unquote, are the governments and are the bosses of these people, how do we fire them all?
To be false. By the
how do we fire them all?
How do we just fire elect them all? A new guy, elect the other guy.
No. Well, how do we fire them all?
That would be excellent. But I will say, like, if the choice is between they get to put whatever they want to in everyone's body tomorrow, or they get to put whatever they want in everyone's body 10 years from now, that's an obvious choice. So if this can even slow that down long enough for us to build alternative structures, such as cryptocurrency, such as RSS feeds, such as a lot we technologies
or
that are
seceding
coming out now,
from the United States,
or to secede from the federal
government. Because that's how you
government.
fire him. That's the only way you can fire him, is to say, we're done with this. We don't need you. We don't want you. We don't want your services. We don't want your taxes. We don't want your regulations. We don't want your bombs. We're done. 603-283-6160, and that's what the folks over at NH Exit are working on, and the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. These are two of the groups that are pushing the new constitutional amendment that has yet to actually be numbered, but it's coming. That number is coming, so I can't tell you what the number of it is yet. That's still on the way. More coming up. Hour 3's next. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with a hard-fought win for the White House, the passage of President Biden's infrastructure proposals after a day of more infighting among Democrats. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, says the president's Build Back Better public spending plan may not secure congressional support until late November. The Democrats paid the price this week for their internal warfare, losing the race for the governor of Virginia. A Republican, Glenn Youngkin, won a shock come-from-behind victory.
We are going to start that transformation on day one.
His win in Virginia and a stronger-than-expected Republican performance in New Jersey terrified Democrats. They fear the Republicans will now recapture both houses of Congress in midterm elections next year. The election results came hours after President Biden returned to the US from COP26 in Glasgow. At the Climate Change Summit, he insisted America was reclaiming a position of world leadership, and he chided the leaders of China and Russia for staying away.
The fact that China trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up, come on.
Environmental activists say they've been disappointed by COP26 so far. Greta Thunberg telling supporters that it's a business-as-usual talking shop, despite agreements to reduce deforestation and global dependence on coal. Britain was rocked by a political scandal. A member of the governing Conservative Party resigned from Parliament after Prime Minister Boris Johnson tried to defend him against corruption allegations, but then, amid furious opposition, changed his mind. FSN's Ollie Barrett covered that story from London.
Owen Paterson standing down, not by any means admitting guilt after the process that he says he has found unfair that led to the recommended suspension of him from the House of Commons. He says he's resigning because of the treatment that he's received and his family has received in recent days and the atmosphere around the story.
28 million 5 to 12-year-olds got the green light to get vaccinated against COVID-19 in the USA. The CDC and the FDA gave their blessing. And Pfizer announced what US officials called incredible results regarding the efficacy of a pill to treat the virus. It will now be studied further by international medicines regulators. The world of entertainment mourned the loss of Lionel Blair. He died at the age of 92 after 60 years in show business. He tap danced with Sammy Davis Jr. He was a singer, a beloved actor, and a hugely popular presence on a variety of British quiz programs. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Job openings and key inflation data will be in focus on Wall Street in the coming week. Investors will be looking to build on last week's strong momentum that was fueled by a stronger-than-expected jobs report. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo.
Last week, the Federal Reserve announced it's tapering its bond-buying program, but indicated it will remain patient on when to start raising interest rates. Inflation has been a concern for the Fed, but the central bank expects pricing pressures to be transitory. This week, Consumer Price Index data, a key inflation tracker out Wednesday, will be watched closely. Turning to the labour market, data out last week showed the economy added a better-than-expected 531,000 jobs in October. But there were more than 10 million job openings in August, and investors hope September's figures, out on Friday, will show an improvement.
Texas and 10 other states are suing the Biden administration, attempting to overturn what they insist are unconstitutional vaccine mandates. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Tony Waterman is covering that story.
Texas called the vaccine mandate bad policy and bad law, asking the court to strike it down. The suit comes just a day after the Biden administration set a January 4th deadline for private companies with 100 or more employees to ensure their workforces nurses are either vaccinated or undergoing weekly testing. Certain healthcare workers must be fully vaccinated. The White House says the requirements are necessary to halt the virus's spread, but at least 18 states have now filed lawsuits to block its enforcement, arguing it's an overreach of federal powers.
Stories will be reporting in the coming week. Once again, the Democrats' efforts to pass Joe Biden's domestic legislative agenda. The second week of COP26 in Glasgow. Will it yield much progress? And a crucial Communist Party meeting convenes in Beijing. And that's the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
Last month, the FDA approved Hallucex, a new class of weight loss drug that helps users avoid overeating by producing nightmarish hallucinations whenever food is around. Hallucex targets the brain's cerebral cortex, stimulating the centers responsible for fear and visual processing. Test subjects reported an unprecedented decrease in appetite and showed dramatic weight loss, with only 18% reporting night terrors or subsequent cardiac arrest.
It's designed to make fatty and sugary foods even scarier. An apple just looks like it has fangs, but a milkshake will threaten you and your family by name.
Earlier incarnations of the drug proved to be too powerful and produced mental states in which test subjects no longer believed that food had ever existed. An unshakable belief that the subject had to eat all of the food on the planet in order to prevent food from rising up and destroying the human race.
No, you don't understand. I have to do this.
Or the conviction that food could be negotiated with diplomatically. With the Lab Report, I'm Aisha Patel.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and we're kicking off the third hour of the live Saturday edition of the show. Phones are open as they always are. Here, the number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. At the beginning of the show, we kind of went over some of the basics about this new vaccine mandate that OSHA is going to be cramming down the throats of corporations with over 100 employees. And if they can get away with that, you better believe they're going to do it to, the smaller corporations as well. In fact, I think Peakless Mountaineer, you might have a story about that. But
I do indeed. You
also have a story about there's an appeals court that's put a stay on this vaccine mandate. And I'm sure there's a lot of people breathing a sigh of relief out there. Oh, see, the system works. The courts are coming to our rescue. This will work.
On one hand, I don't mind seeing the state sort of try to eat itself with this state versus state action. Fine, let's do more of that. Let's, as much as we can, let's sick the state upon itself and see if it'll just eat itself out of existence.
But it won't.
I know.
Yeah, we had a caller talking about the checks and balances. Hey, I've got a great idea. How about we literally never make any of the people of the legislative branch part of the executive branch? If we're going to have these, check and balance each other, because we're pretty good at never letting a judge become president. How about we just stop letting Congress become president?
But it doesn't matter because the judges back up Congress 9 times out of 10.
Let's just stop letting there be presidents.
Well, that would be ideal. That would be
Congress.
Ideal. But hey,
stop judges.
Anything that slows them down, I think, is progress. And anything that reverses them completely is even better.
Okay, but is this actually going to slow them down? What are the details here?
Oh, this is absolutely going to slow them down at the very least.
I don't know if I believe it. Tell me more.
Well, so it already has slowed them down, at least so far.
No, because the deadline is January 4th, so they got 2 months to litigate this.
Sure. Okay. Have you seen how slow our courts are?
I think it'll probably tell you in the story, they're asking for a response by the Biden administration by Monday afternoon.
Well,
so they're going to get right to this case.
It is.
The courts are only slow for you and me, my friend.
Right.
Not them.
Well, it is at least good news. I mean,
I don't know if it is. But what's the news? Tell me what the news is.
All right. So this is from RT.com. Federal court freezes Biden vaccine mandate for businesses. A U.S. federal appeals court has issued a stay on President Joe Biden's vaccine mandates for employers, freezing the requirement over constitutional concerns. Biden's mandate says that companies with 100 or more employees must require their workers to either get the COVID-19 vaccine or be tested weekly. Numerous Republican states and companies, such as conservative outlet The Daily Wire, had already presented legal challenges to Biden's controversial mandate before the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit stepped in. The court put a hold on the mandate on Saturday before its January deadline.
They came in on Saturday to do this.
Right?
Courts don't work on Saturdays.
They've never
generally.
come in on a Saturday for me.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And they put this hold on it over, quote, grave statutory and constitutional concerns, unquote. Now, that is, I think, very telling, because it is very, very rare that you will get any kind of court whatsoever to even consider constitutionality.
That's true, but an appeals court is more likely to be hearing a constitutional issue than, say, a district-level court or something like that. So it's a little more common there.
Fair enough, but I mean, I think you're looking at the glass half empty. Like, they could have just as easily, A, put this off, or B, ruled, no, there's nothing to see here, as they oh so very often do.
They could have.
So at this point, at least they're saying, you might have a point.
But I'm not optimistic about what they're going to say in the long run.
Most government actions, seems to me, are unconstitutional.
Yeah, and they get away with it
That's
every
a fact.
time.
They certainly aren't held to account for their unconstitutionality, but from time to time, they are slowed down.
Here's the thing. If they're going to make a decision on this relatively soon, and there's evidence to believe that they will, because, again, from what I saw, they want Biden administration to respond to this lawsuit or whatever by Monday afternoon. So we may have a decision, within the next few weeks on this, in which case, my prediction, and I'm not a lawyer, and lawyers will just give you opinions anyway, so anybody's opinion is as good as anyone else's.
If you pay them enough for it.
Yeah. First of all, this is not a challenge to OSHA. Okay, this is not a lawsuit saying every OSHA regulation is illegal. OSHA is unconstitutional. Overturn OSHA. That's not what this is. This is them saying, oh, this is bad. We're making some argument, whatever their legal argument is about this, whatever it is. I haven't read the filing.
If a bunch of states making that kind of argument were common, then we might not be in such a rush to get out of the U.S.
They're not common. Right?
Exactly my point. Like, it is not common to have a bunch of states signing on to hey, we need to do away with OSHA. If that was common, I wouldn't be in quite as much of a rush to get out of the United States as a state.
But that's not what they're doing. They're not opposing OSHA. I'm going to presume, right?
No.
I have not read the filing.
They're opposing this mandate.
And neither of you, right? So, yeah, they're opposing just this mandate. And so what they're going to have to argue is that, because the state's going to argue, the Biden side of the state is going to argue, well, hey, look, we've had OSHA since the 1970s or whenever the hell, I think it was in the 70s when it was implemented. We've had OSHA in the 1970s. They've had regulation after regulation, and OSHA itself issues these regulations. Congress doesn't have to issue. Congress gave OSHA the power to issue its own regulations, all about safety. And, you're not against safety, are you? This is all about safety. And so OSHA's been issuing regulations for decades. This is just another regulation. How are they going to argue against that?
On constitutional and statutory grounds, which is one of the upsides of this. So they're not just saying, hey, there's a constitutional question here, we need to look into that. They are also saying this appears to violate the laws of these various states. So we also need to look into that.
Okay, that's an interesting question.
Actually pretty big.
To me, it seems like pacification.
That's what this is, yeah.
Right. It's the same thing as, well, we investigated ourselves and we found we did nothing wrong.
Right.
Right. Except this is on there's some people who kind of don't like this thing, so let's put on a song and dance.
Yep.
Where we pretend like, we'll put it on hold for a minute and then we'll pretend like we're doing something important with it. But in the end, we'll find out that it's cool and we'll let it go anyway.
Yes, that's exactly what I predict is going to happen.
There's another side of this, though. So this is just the first one that they're ruling on. So, I mean, this has, 11 states are signed up to it, including New Hampshire now. But there are various lawsuits against OSHA for this exact thing that literally the majority of states have signed on to multiple different lawsuits. So this is just the first one that we're even hearing on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if they eventually say, no, this is fine, they still have to go through those motions with all of these other lawsuits.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that their preliminary finding is no, you might have a case here, both on constitutionality and on it violating your
Don't
state
get too
laws.
excited about this, dude. I got to agree with Catherine on this. This is all a show. And you know what it's a show for? It's a show for the governors of those 11 states. They get to issue their Twitter and their press release and their, stand behind a podium and say,
look at what we did.
Yes, look at what we're doing. We oppose this Biden administration. They're doing mean things, and we're going to stand up for the people of the state of fill in the blank.
Well,
and then they're going to have their attorney generals join together to oppose this. And then once it gets shut down, they're going to say, well, we did everything that we could. And we fought hard, and we care about freedom in this state of fill in the blank. And so you need to reelect me. You need to reelect me because I stood up.
I'll grant you that this is a show. However, this is a show that is bringing into question who counts. Is it the state or is it the federal government?
What do you think the federal courts are going to rule?
Well, so that's exactly the thing. This is going to get a bunch of people to get behind the idea of withdrawing from the federal government.
Okay.
So at least
you mean when they rule against these states?
If and when they rule against the states, this is going to get a lot more people behind secession than have been before. And
no
I think
doubt,
that's
more tyranny brings more people in favor of secession. I'll agree with you on that.
So at least the play that they're putting on has a purpose and a potential consequence in that
even
we
if that's
might
not their
start
intention.
withdrawing. Indeed, even though it's certainly not their intention.
603-283-6160. They just want to get reelected. Right?
I think they should hire Jerry Bruckheimer. They need a better producer, make it more entertaining.
603-283-6160. I don't even think he could save court, man. That stuff is boring. More coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts on Free Talk Live.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can join us online as well over at freetalklive.com. And I want to say thanks to David R. Jeffries, who is a Platinum amp. He's one of our new amps over at the Patreon that we launched.
He's covered in metal?
A few weeks ago. He is metal, man. He's like Platinum. That's pretty awesome. That means he's doing more than $25 or more per month to the new Patreon, and all we ask is $5, so he's doing 5 times the minimum amount.
Dude, thanks. You are metal.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, David. Definitely appreciate it. But appreciate everybody, and including folks that do 5. And head on over to amps.freetalklive.com. That'll take you right to our Patreon. You can join with PayPal, debit card, credit card. They make it pretty easy, and that's one way you can get some of the cool perks, like access to the AMP-only podcast, which doesn't have like the recorded commercials that our normal podcast episodes do. And you get some other perks as well. You can learn about those over at amps.freetalklive.com. We go to your phone calls and thoughts. Eric, calling from Manchester, New Hampshire, listening to WNTK up in the Upper Valley. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Nice, interesting discussion. I listen to you periodically.
Thank you.
The radio station is now carrying you guys, which is much more interesting than what was on before.
You talk about WNTK out of the Upper Valley. Or you're listening to them online. I don't think you can get that in Manchester, right? Like on the air?
No. Once in a while, it'll be on a radio station for a day or so.
Gotcha.
And then it goes away. I've listened to you guys directly too. So
what's on your mind tonight, Eric?
So I just want to tell you real quick. I'm a ex-masshole, okay? And I moved up to New Hampshire almost 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations on escaping Massachusetts.
I really, really like this state in terms of, people care about each other on an individual level. Way more so than Massachusetts by a mile. A couple of things, about the succession. I think secession could just happen as a matter of inevitability. But a couple of things that I do, one of my concerns is that, there's always going to be a huge superpower that's going to dominate things, and it could be us and it could be someone else. You know what I mean?
What do you mean us? I don't dominate anything as a superpower, so do you?
Well, I mean, we're not talking about I'm not saying what I think. I'm just saying what is understood as, right? That's all. I'm not trying to win an argument or anything like that.
Well, he was just asking you a question. Like when you said us, you mean a group of people?
I'm sorry. I meant the United States.
Oh, okay.
The United States federal government. Okay.
Go ahead. Continue.
Correct. Yes. Federal government. That's a key word. If you look at like 9/11, right? The government didn't protect us. In fact, they're part of the problem.
Absolutely.
Why we were attacked.
Yeah, as Ron Paul, I believe, pointed out so deftly during his multiple campaigns for president, that the U.S. military creates blowback. They create terrorism. They create things like the Taliban and ISIS by going over there and destroying innocent lives and blowing up buildings and things like that. So
right. Well, my point is there's only one guy that stopped that 9/11 attack, and it wasn't from the government. He was an ordinary citizen. His name was Todd Beamer, and he gathered people to say, because they were headed toward, we don't know, it was either Congress or the White House. So, I mean...
Yeah, you're talking about the plane that went down. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and the point you're making here is really good. It's strong that the individuals who were involved were the ones that stopped that. It wasn't, airport security. It wasn't some governmental system or whatever. It was the people on that plane that tried to interfere and successfully, to some extent, did. Obviously, they perished, but the plane didn't reach its target. So yeah, the real power is in individuals, and that's where self-defense comes into such a strong play, especially here in New Hampshire. We were talking about gun freedoms, for instance. You could defend yourself here, and that's probably a strong reason why New Hampshire has one of the lowest crime rates, if not the lowest, I think, murder rate or whatever of all of the 50 states.
Well, I'm not a gun guy, but I'm going to get my license anyways, just because no one's telling me what
You're in New Hampshire? You don't need a license.
Well, you can still get one if you want.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had licenses in this state.
Well, they do.
Seems
do.
Kind of superfluous when you've got
I looked into this.
Constitutional carry.
No, I looked into this recently. If you want to travel to another state and that state has reciprocity with New Hampshire, then yes, you go down and you pay your, I don't know, I think it's $10. It was cheap. I was like, really? That's it? And you go down and they'll give you the equivalent of a concealed weapons permit for another. You don't need one when you're in New Hampshire.
Right.
But if you are carrying and you're going to travel to a state, you just got to make sure that they have reciprocity.
Eric, any other thoughts on independence or whatever else you want to share?
Well, I just say if you look at our country, it started out with George Washington, first guy probably in world history that said, "I'm going to serve 2 terms and then I'm going to go away." That's so against human nature. So there's some special.
Well, he actually died literally 2 years after his second term, so I don't think he was going to make it through a third term. I think there's a little more pedestalization there than is due.
Okay, fair enough. But when you think about it, there were calls for him to be a president for life and all of that.
I did figure out just now in my head the only time I've ever dominated anybody with my superpowers when I was way deep into cosplay.
I don't know if I want to know what you were cosplaying as.
Superhero, dude. Come
on. Hey, Eric, thanks for the call tonight, man. We're definitely, independence is definitely something we're going to be talking more about, especially as the constitutional amendment moves forward through the political process here in New Hampshire. And it's definitely some people have some concerns, and those are some of those things that need to get answered. There's some legitimate concerns out there, and there are answers for them. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it.
And he does bring up a myth that there must be a globe-dominating power.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us back to that.
That's really it's untrue. Like it's a very self-serving myth by the people who give it to us. Like someone's got to dominate the globe, and it's better that it be us than someone else.
There was a time when folks felt the Roman Empire ruled the entire globe, and they didn't. They ruled a very small piece of the globe.
And I mean, even if that were true, it would be a terrible conclusion because, okay, like the idea is you have this like free society and therefore it should dominate the globe, except power corrupts. So that means that you will lose the only good society on Earth. So the Earth will be absent of the one good society. Whereas if you don't try to dominate the globe, then you can continue to be a good society and the world will at least have one.
Yes, and we would also be an economically strong society because New Hampshire, a freer New Hampshire. I mean, arguably New Hampshire is already one of the freest places on the planet. Maybe the freest of all the 50 states, although apparently Florida is relatively free, but I still contend that New Hampshire beats Florida hands down.
When I was doing the cosplay, attempting to dominate with my superpowers, I failed the first time. I went as Batman. It turns out Batman doesn't have any superpowers.
Just has toys.
He's just really rich.
Yeah. 603-283-6160. You can bring up what you want. Take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with a hard-fought win for the White House, the passage of President Biden's infrastructure proposals after a day of more infighting among Democrats. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, says the president's Build Back Better public spending plan may not secure congressional support until late November. The Democrats paid the price this week for their internal warfare, losing the race for the governor of Virginia. A Republican, Glenn Youngkin, won a shock come-from-behind victory.
We are going to start that transformation on day one.
His win in Virginia and a stronger-than-expected Republican performance in New Jersey terrified Democrats. They fear the Republicans will now recapture both houses of Congress in midterm elections next year. The election results came hours after President Biden returned to the US from COP26 in Glasgow. At the Climate Change Summit, he insisted America was reclaiming a position of world leadership, and he chided the leaders of China and Russia for staying away.
The fact that China trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up, come on.
Environmental activists say they've been disappointed by COP26 so far. Greta Thunberg telling supporters that it's a business-as-usual talking shop, despite agreements to reduce deforestation and global dependence on coal. Britain was rocked by a political scandal. A member of the governing Conservative Party resigned from Parliament after Prime Minister Boris Johnson tried to defend him against corruption allegations, but then, amid furious opposition, changed his mind. FSN's Ollie Barrett covered that story from London.
Owen Paterson standing down, not by any means admitting guilt after the process that he says he has found unfair that led to the recommended suspension of him from the House of Commons. He says he's resigning because of the treatment that he's received and his family has received in recent days and the atmosphere around the story.
28 million 5 to 12-year-olds got the green light to get vaccinated against COVID-19 in the USA. The CDC and the FDA gave their blessing. And Pfizer announced what US officials called incredible results regarding the efficacy of a pill to treat the virus. It will now be studied further by international medicines regulators. The world of entertainment mourned the loss of Lionel Blair. He died at the age of 92 after 60 years in show business. He tap danced with Sammy Davis Jr. He was a singer, a beloved actor, and a hugely popular presence on a variety of British quiz programs. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, open phones for you. If you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160, and you can bring up whatever you want in the studio tonight. It's Ian,
Peakless Mountaineer.
And the Captain.
And you can join us online anytime you want on our social media site. We've got our own social media platform. We launched it earlier this year, so not quite a year ago, but coming up on a year. And we did that because, well, big tech, you just can't trust them. They're going to shut you down. I was just looking at a story about Elliot over at Liberty Blog, or Alu.
Yeah.
He goes by both names. Anyway, there was a company that shut down his T-shirt sales. Just boom, you're done. No warning. Just cut you down. Cut you off. Yep, canceled. And of course, this is happening to people that are taking a pro-liberty stance in a lot of issues, specifically about vaccines.
Yeah.
But anytime you're, even questioning the state now, you have a chance of getting shut down by these platforms and such. So we figured we'd launch our own. We're using the Mastodon open source social media, which basically apes what Twitter does. It does all the same things Twitter does, just without the Twitter, without the big corporation. So we're running that server, and you can join it over at social.freetalklive.com. That's social.freetalklive.com. Check that out. It is a free service, and you have much more freedom to express yourself there. In fact, I heard that even Donald Trump chose Mastodon for his upcoming Trump Social. I think it's called Truth Social is what they're coming out with. It hasn't released yet, but it's been making headlines. So smart move on his part. He should have done it a year ago, but better late than never.
And I got to say, so we were talking about the Bitbox a minute ago.
Yeah,
and you mentioned
the hardware
that
wallet
also is open source. And for all of this open source stuff, like I trust that so much more.
Yes.
Because with anything that isn't open source, I mean, not only do you not know what's in there, which, I mean, if you're not a programmer, you don't anyway, but no one knows what's in there. So there's just no telling what kind of crazy program it's running in the background. Like what information is going to who or what it's doing.
We got more your calls coming up right now. We go first to Seth. He's calling us from New Hampshire. Seth, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. So I was listening on Thursday night, and I heard a caller call in named Tom, and I found his call really interesting. He was calling. I didn't necessarily agree with his actual point. He called in about Kyle Rittenhouse, and what he literally said was, that basically, Kyle needed to. He didn't say fry, but basically Kyle needed to go down because there are so many people that don't look like him that would never get away with what he did. And he
was specifically talking about black versus white. That's what he was referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily agree that Kyle Rittenhouse should be convicted, but I did really hear where he was coming from, and I found it really interesting just how much passion was in his voice. I listened to a fair amount of talk radio. I have my whole life, and I don't know. I thought his call he sounded passionate, and what he said was that that him and people like him being black, they have a certain type of relationship with the police, or at least with some police officers. Because as anybody who's dealt with police knows, there are plenty of police run the gamut, all kinds of people. But whenever the problem with power is that the people who abuse it don't get punished. And that's the difference between power and the market, right?
But would you agree, Seth, that police, statistically at least, seem to target black people more so than any other race?
I think that's absolutely true.
Okay.
And, I think it's, I did some, just everything that I've been, against police militarization, against the increase in police powers, civil asset forfeiture. I think most people in the libertarian space have been speaking out against those things for a long, long time. But I really, really enjoyed might be the wrong word, but I was encouraged by things like defund the police becoming mainstream topics in the last few years. I had never seen that, and frankly, I never expected it. This country worships its law enforcement in so many different ways, and I had never expected to see like a mainstream movement gain national attention, or at least some amount of mainstream attention, on something as what I consider radical as defund the police. And when I went to events at places like D.C., Portland, and all over New Hampshire, I was really amazed by the people that I met there, and just how much I think libertarians have in common with them. I think people would be very surprised, perhaps, because I think a lot of people can, unfortunately, kind of lump libertarianism in with the right. I don't think it's fair.
That's not fair.
But I think that a lot of people do. And, they assume, and they kind of put BLM on the left.
Yep.
But I think that revolutionary philosophies have more in common than they have opposing. And a lot of the people that I met there, if we had just talked about the issues about just police accountability, I don't know if we had talked about other issues.
Yeah, if this had been the police accountability movement, I would have absolutely been there. But instead it turned into this, sort of, oh, well, it's Black Lives Matter, which is also the name of this particular group, which is very clearly socialist, and it all got muddied.
I think Seth has a good point. I don't know if that's the point he's trying to make, but if the sort of revolutionary ideas is the term he used. I don't know if I'd go that far, but if the ideas of like a group like BLM and then, the libertarians can find common ground, that will strike fear into the heart of statists quicker than anything I can think of.
Well, I'd like to weigh in here with my experience last year, Peakless. Our friend and co-host Nobody and I went to Black Lives Matter rallies in Keene and also Manchester and Nashua. And we saw this co-opting happening. The beginning, the first one that happened here in Keene was amazing. It was the largest rally I'd ever seen in Keene Central Square, relatively small park. It's a small town. There were hundreds of people, even bigger than the 420s that we had way back in the day, which had over 100. There were hundreds of people in this particular park, and there was a very firm anti-police sentiment. Like the police showed up and tried to be all buddy-buddy with people in the park and like trying to make friends, and the people on the stage talked down to them and told them to get out of the park. And similar, attitude in Manchester. But then when it got to Nashua, which was also a very, very large rally with probably more than 1,000, lots of people at that Nashua one, it had been completely co-opted. There were politicians that were on the stage speaking instead of the individuals who were the actual victims of police abuse. It was like the mayor and this other person from the city council and another person. Oh, and the police chief. And it was like you saw it happen. But the same thing happened with the Tea Party back in the day too.
Right.
And so same old story.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. But I also think it's one of the ways that the people at the top kind of pit us against each other is to try to point out all of our differences. BLM corporate, I mean, as I said, I've gone to, I don't know, half a dozen of these rallies at least, no, more than that, but several, and I've never met one of them who's like, I was reading the BLM points on their website the other day, and I was really, nobody ever said that, right? Nobody, most of the people who were there weren't there because they'd gone to BLM's website or liked their Facebook page. They were there because they were angry at the police. And so I think that, it behooved some in the media to kind of focus on particular individuals. And when you do that, it's really easy to find flaws in people because we're all so flawed. And, I mean, imagine if the entire liberty movement in New Hampshire there was a cable networks for years just talked about one or two board members on one or two particular organizations as the liberty movement in New Hampshire. And how inaccurate that would be.
Representative of the liberty community, just like they do with, Jesse Jackson as the guy speaking for all black people or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And just a quick insert. So a lot of people, they're like, defund the police, and that scares them. And they imagine that it's a question of, will you have police or will you have nothing? When it's really a question of, if you don't have these people filling this niche, we are going to adapt and adjust, and we are going to find ways to remain safe.
Seth, final thoughts if you got time. Go ahead.
That's it. I really appreciate you guys taking my call.
Thanks, man. Appreciate hearing from you. That's Seth calling from Manchester, I think, there in New Hampshire. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We got time for you if you get on the line right now. Whatever happens to be on your mind, we can talk about it. Plus, I got this woke Microsoft video I've been wanting to play for a couple days. It's real short. You guys haven't seen it yet. And it's really the audio that counts, so we'll get into it coming up here in a moment. It's Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Moments remain, maybe enough time for you if you're on the lines. If not, get on them now at 603-283-6160, and you can bring up anything you want. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Biggest Mountaineer.
And the Lord, Reverend Captain Kickass.
603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. First up, though, I want to play this. I just want to play this just because it's pretty hilarious. You don't have to actually see it, Captain, because
Microsoft.
It's
Micro Woke.
These are two clips here from Microsoft, which I believe aren't they based in the Seattle, Washington
yes, they are.
area. So
On
let me pull this
side.
over here to the other screen and play this for you. So this is from I guess something that they're doing, whatever the hell it's called, Microsoft Ignite, and these are their presenters.
Redmond, Washington.
Hello,
and welcome to Microsoft Ignite. We've got a big day ahead and lots in store for you. First, we want to acknowledge that the land where the Microsoft campus is situated was traditionally occupied by the Sammamish, the Duwamish, the Snoqualmie, the Suquamish, the Muckleshoot, the Snohomish, the Tulalip, and other Coast Salish peoples since time immemorial.
And if that's all that this was, okay, fine. I could give him a pass.
Not fine.
That, right?
Not fine.
No?
I just want everyone to know that this is stolen.
But still.
What? Give it back, you horrible, evil creature.
I could give him a pass on that. Like, hey, we took this land. We're sorry for it. All right. Well.
But now we've got software, so.
That's not where it stops.
Blah, 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 blah.
Okay, this is an edited clip. She was not there. This is the whatever her name, Thunberg or whatever, that they put that in there.
Blah, blah. My name is Allison Wines. I'm a senior program manager in our developer tools division. I'm an Asian and white female with dark brown hair wearing a red sleeveless top.
And I'm Seth Juarez, program manager in the AI platform group. I'm a tall Hispanic male wearing a blue shirt, khaki pants. Today we kick off 2 days of learning more about the latest.
So for one, we have to take his word for the fact that he's wearing pants.
Well, and also, she said her name was April Wines, and she kind of whined when she said April Wines.
That's not where it stops. Here's another clip from a different Microsoft video released recently.
Hello, everyone. I'm Natalie Gadilla. I'm a Caucasian woman with long blonde hair, and I go by she, her. I'm a product marketing lead here at Microsoft and co-host of the podcast Security Unlocked with this guy.
Yes, that would be me. Hello, everyone. I'm Nick Fillingham. I'm a Caucasian man with glasses and a beard. I go by he, him, and I'm a security evangelist here at Microsoft.
They don't mention his mohawk. He's got a mohawk.
Well, like every racist, they believe that race is the most important factor. You have to judge everyone by their race. So these people, from their perspective, you should listen to less.
Hi, I'm the captain. I'm a white Caucasian male with a giant goatee and a shaved head.
It's just bizarre.
I'm wearing a blue shirt with a white long-sleeved undershirt under it.
I mean, the pronouns thing has been ridiculous, in my opinion. But this just takes it to a new level of absurdity. Actually,
I go by Lord, Captain,
describing
Reverend,
yourself.
Just in case, because you are less sighted, you are having difficulty racially discriminating. I want to make your racial discrimination easier by making sure you know which race I am.
It makes me feel like I'm sitting in a courtroom and they're identifying the defendant. Yes, Your Honor, he's sitting there in the red T-shirt at the defendant's table with a goatee.
You describe yourself in that fashion?
No.
I think they saw the Chappelle's Show skit too many times of the black-white supremacist.
There was actually a time where the ACLU had a meeting here in Keene, and I like the New Hampshire ACLU. They do mostly good stuff. They fight for freedom of speech and some other liberties that are relatively important. I disagree with them on a couple of different issues, but nobody and I, our co-host, nobody and I showed up to this meeting just to see what was going on, and they went around and they encouraged people to give their pronouns when they were introducing themselves. And nobody and I both refused to participate. I said something like, "You can call me whatever you want. I don't care." And just this whole thing, this whole woke pronouns, self-description. Here's what you should call me. It's just tiresome.
It's just what I do. I make fun of this stuff.
Yeah,
right.
That's all you can do.
It's
ridiculous.
If they're gonna make up pronouns, I can make up pronouns too.
Yeah.
I'd be like, dude. It's my pronoun.
That's
dude.
a good one.
My pronoun is the following. Opens phone book. A. Anderson. Aaron Anderson.
Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts. I just wanted to share that with you just to show how crazy woke Microsoft is.
I won't mention it, but I'm very familiar with Microsoft.
Yeah, we go on here to your calls and thoughts. First up, Jet is on the line in Vegas. You're on Free Talk Live, Jet.
Yeah, hi. I was about ready to run out to the store, but I tuned in and heard somebody say, Congress gave OSHA the power to blah, blah, but I go, whoa, hold up, boss. Anyway, what do you think I would say to that? Like, magical powers.
I know what you'd say. Hang on. Let me see. You would say something like, if I don't have the power to do that, where did they get the power to do that from?
Well, kind of, sort of. I keep telling people that this whole country and most countries were established in this way by a group of people going into a room and saying, we hereby grant ourselves the rights, powers, and authority to grant ourselves rights, powers, and authority. So if there's some way I could persuade you guys into promoting that these are just other people, you know, Ian's been doing probably the best lately, you know, calling everybody a gang, like the FBI gang and the IRS gang and stuff like that. But when we're talking about the federal mafia, the state mafia, how about if we just ease into it by referring to these agencies as mafias or gangs?
Yeah, I've been talking about them as an empire also recently. I don't know if that's within your ballpark.
Sure. Yeah, I just want more people to start understanding where all these magical powers don't come from.
Yeah, these are just men and women. It is important to point that out.
So you don't believe that you have 1/300 millionth of the power to absolute oppression?
I know. I'm just one of those people who, I don't know. I've always looked at celebrities, politicians, next door neighbors. Everybody is just another person who, you know, has no more right to do anything than I do. It's just one of those things. I've never been impressed by titles or position or that kind of thing. Probably because, as you know, I'm a dedicated follower of Christ, and they came to him once and said, "We come to you, Master, because we know that you don't pay any attention to these people or what they have to say." So I'm kind of go along with that guy.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I was disappointed, by the way. This week I was in courtroom for Footloose's trial, and there was a few other folks that had a trial as well, and just always disappointed to see people standing for judges. Like, I will not stand for another man. It's against my religious beliefs. And Bonnie and I, sadly, were the only two who didn't stand, and amongst an audience of people who should know better than that. That was my only disappointment. Otherwise, I had a good time. It was a good trial. Thanks for the call, Jet.
Yeah, I don't care what title you give yourself or how many people you agree, or how many people you get to agree that you have this title. Mm-hmm. I don't care. You don't have more powers.
You're just a person. Your S smells too. Let's go to Tom in Maryland. You're on Free Talk Live, calling from Baltimore.
I guess I should start by saying I'm a white heterosexual male. Actually, I guess colorless. Because,
what are your pronouns? What are your pronouns?
You're color. What are you, translucent? You're colorless?
Well, I hear about people of color. I guess that means people of European descent with whiter skin have no color.
Are you albino?
I'm not.
Sorry, what were you calling about tonight, Tom?
I was going to comment on Jack Ball Jerome, but I think more importantly, I'd like to comment quickly on the last caller. Sure. He's absolutely right. It really boils down to a basic principle that I think most people can agree on, and that is you can't have two sovereigns. The government calls itself sovereign, and yet it says the people are sovereign. You can have only one sovereign, and it should be the people. And by the way, administrative agencies and their administrative rules like OSHA and so many other unconstitutional agencies, their rules are not law. In fact, what Congress did delegate to these agencies was the ability to make these rules. But if you look into the law, they have to follow a very precise, and if I said laws, I meant rules, they have to follow a very precise set of steps in order to have these hold the force of law. And like with so many things, I always tell people, look for the legal defect in your case before you look for proving your guilt or innocence, because you'd be shocked at how many legal defects are in any criminal case.
That's certainly what they listen to.
Yeah, and you don't get to find out those legal defects if you just take a plea deal. Then you're guilty. If you, say you're going to trial, go with not guilty, demand discovery, then you get to find out where they screwed up.
And
Thanks
it's
for
worth
the call.
noting that the Congress never had these powers to give.
Yep, indeed. Hey, out of time for tonight. If you didn't get in tonight, call us tomorrow for the live Sunday edition. The captain will be here to helm the show. We'll see you tomorrow online. In the meantime, Free Talk Live. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio